and welcome to this week's session of Tales of Variance, a sideshow to the infinite, hosted by not me. Oh, GM'd by not me. I'm going to host for this moment because this is the amount of professionalism I prepared. Today, I'm joined by everybody, but I get to be a player as Charlie takes the reins. I want to thank Charlie for giving me a week off and also allowing Andrew to play. Otherwise, we had to do a 20% Valis somewhere else episode, which would have been really funny, but a lot of work. So, unless anybody other than Charlie has something to say about life or important things, I'm going to hand it over to Charlie.
All right. So I don't think Jack mentioned, but for the posterity of the stream and my own, ability to say it wasn't my fault, this is my first GMing experience ever. Woo! So y'all can take the play you get and enjoy it. And here we go. Let's see. I'm just gonna read my opening line because I took notes, Jack.
Unacceptable.
All right. I know it is, but I have my full script reading monitor twisted to the side, so all mistakes are not due to my prep; they're just due to me being squirrely. So we open in dead silence, in empty space, viewing a vast planet from afar. The surface is obscured by soft, pale green clouds, occasionally shot through with deeper violet and gold. At first glance, a novice might mistake this for a gas giant, but as you look closer, here and there, you see coastlines as the shades of the clouds move across. The camera pans away, and as it sweeps abruptly through the system, it shows a set of natural but numerous satellites, varying size and composition. Some are much stonier, others are icy. And then in the lee of these, on the other side of these from the planet, drifts the Variance. The engines are powered low. It's in kind of a quiet surveillance mode. We slip forward, skimming the hull as it gleams. And slowly the camera passes through. The silence is broken by the noises of the ship as we travel through the bulkheads and past the wiring. We hear a low, urgent alarm. It's abruptly silenced. The soft, urgent noises of a disagreement among officers. As the room passes through, rapid keystrokes clattering, and a lone voice. At first it's unclear, and then you hear, "An asterisk. Lives resting on a bloody asterisk. Don't be reductive. Anomalies are central to our mission." You hear the quiet, rhythmic of a maintenance droid scrubbing a narrow cavity, and that drowns out the impending argument. Finally, we make our way to the wing, the recreation wing, and you can hear in one room the grunts impacts of a heavy spar occurring. The next room over, splashing the filtration systems of an aquatic recreation room. The next room over, the whirs and occasional smacks of a blood-free disc game. And in another, the strains of music. Currently, Zyrea, and if I pronounce your names wrong, correct me, because I have been mostly reading them. Is it Zyrea or Zyrea?
Zyrea.
Zyrea.
Diarrhea.
That is going to be a continual.
The hardest of the ways to pronounce the name.
Yeah, the one that is phonetically sound, Zyrea. Vito, Quadrissia, and Selmac are all off duty. They have their scheduled recreational hours right now. Celeste, poor Celeste, is mid-shift. So, Madi and Jack, what are your characters doing during their recreational time?
I think absolutely Quadrissia is currently trying to stab Zyrea as hard as possible with a foam-tipped spear. It's a foam-tipped spear that she made herself, and it is very whippy in the way that it moves, which is not really the way that her normal thing works. But eventually she just goes for a stab at Zyrea and lets the spear fall out of her hand and turns it into like an attempt to punch Zyrea directly in the face. Which is hard. Quad's not that tall, and I assume Zyrea is quite tall.
Yeah, Zyrea is probably like 6'6".
Yeah, I'm like
She's beefy.
a foot and a bit below that. So it's a very like upward punch. Like, this was the wrong angle. Doing Sherlock Holmesian equations in her head.
Yeah, as you let the spear fall to the side, she just like knocks it away with one arm and then just blocks blocks your punch. Like she just does this to block your punch, like just as a down.
The spear lasts 10 seconds every spar before she's just like, this is a bad spear. Ugh.
All right. So as y'all are in this spar, are you in any particular sort of like sparring setup room? Do you prefer a blank room? Do you prefer a room with like any sort of obstacles? And do you let spectators in, or is it a private spar?
I mean,
I think it kind of alternates. I think we were going to do that. They just like occasionally attack each other in the halls, but I think that's ridiculous. So I think maybe this week is like a
it's a
like
training week.
Quad set up this room because it was like her week to do it, and it's very blank, except as an affection for Zyrea, Quad will always put at least one like elasticated rope between two things, so that Zyrea can throw something into it at some point if it's necessary.
She's always grateful whenever you do that. And even though today there are no spectators because it was your turn to set it up, she is still happily practicing her sparring with you and working on her grappling of strange things.
So with
I don't know,
one
that didn't end
elasticated,
right.
Quad's a strange thing to grapple. So that one elasticated rope, is that enough for Zyrea to launch herself off of? Or do you need two?
How have you secured it?
I mean, I'll make an applied engineering roll if you require. But Quad's been doing this a while, and I think it's very like extremely well secured. There's like a lot of metal that has been bored through underneath this room. There's just holes everywhere if you remove the mats. So you can like stick them in really far, and it has like the perfect tension because she is a scientist before a brawler.
All right, then I would say it's probably like 80% of the way there. So a lot of it is more about just the movement and the muscle memory of doing that. So it's not like a boom boom. It's more like a boom, and then like a full step forward.
I do love amateur pro wrestling. It is one of my favorite joys. So for this one, unless y'all would like to run full combat, I was thinking 3 opposed grappling rolls. And then just narrate how that runs out. Like y'all have already done like a good opening scene of how their mid spar is going.
Sure.
If you wanted to narrow a window.
You meant right?
Say again. Brawl,
Brawl
yeah.
roll? Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh goody.
Because you have so many ranks in Brawl that you deserve the chance.
I'm happy to show off the nonsense choices that we both made.
Yes.
So you want us to roll at the same time, and whoever wins, like, takes some control of what happens?
Yeah.
Okay. So just do one at a time.
Yep.
Good luck.
One opposed roll at a time. With your bonuses. Oh!
Good luck.
Oh, I didn't do it right.
I'm going to lose this, and it's going to be the most upsetting thing that's ever happened to me.
Yeah,
I feel really sick.
Who just rolled a 20.
It's happened
So we have
before.
a 29 versus a 27 with a nat 20 for Jack.
So absolutely what happens is that the camera kind of zooms into like almost a POV of Quad, and she's done this huge punch, but she's been studying something that Zyrea obviously doesn't know anything about, and as the punch gets blocked, she reaches up with her other hand and uses like the blocking arm to flip her whole body up and just drive her feet into Zyrea's face. like feet first straight into her forehead so as to not like break anything that actually could break. But then she just like elegantly bounces off and smiles and says, "Well, that's one." And she's like bouncing on
Shakes
her
herself
feet.
a little bit, kind of rubs the little protrusion on her that's in the middle of her forehead just to make sure that you didn't mess it up, which you wouldn't have, but just like
Yeah,
she
she's
takes great
barefoot.
pride in her things or in her visage. She's like, that was good. Can you do it again? I don't think you can.
No, probably not. I think the element of surprise was important, and then as she's finishing that word, like surprise, she's already darting forward and trying to use the fact that she's faster, which doesn't work for Brawl, but
No.
And before y'all make your next opposed brawl rolls, though there's no audience in the room, at the security terminals, which are generally overall manned and monitored by a robotic system, but it's pinged occasionally if something seems to be going awry. Or in this case, there is a notification set up by a couple of the lower level members of the security team. And you hear and see as we cut to that room a clatter as 3 techs just all converge on one computer all at once. And there's a rapid shuffling and maneuvering of small ship script, and snack items. And one of the techs, they're still wearing their standard outfit, their standard uniform, but they're just like hurriedly like, we're late for this one. Come on, and they're putting on their little Z pin. And then another one who is not wearing any pins at all, watching Quad just descend upon Zyrea in this way, kind of like chuckles and smugly nudges the person so they fumble and don't quite get that Z pin on the way they wanted it.
yeah,
And
even my fans are the heels in this situation. I get it.
and then we go back to that screen, the screen that they are watching, and we continue to see the fight as they turn up the audio.
I think Quad is like almost arrogantly complacent. Was like, that's like nobody's head can just take a double foot like leveraged kick to the head. So she's like, I'm just gonna win this because I'm gonna go low and I'm gonna try and trip her. But I think it probably means that she's too arrogant to be paying full attention. So I'm gonna roll with disadvantage because she is nothing if not arrogant. And also, I don't remember how to roll on here. So
Nice self penalty.
Only an 18. Only an 18. I rolled an 8.
Yeah.
Plus 10.
I think this is going to roll with advantage because I am dum-dum. But either way,
Yeah, you beat me again though.
well, I did end up putting 5
Still a
ranks
little
into
woozy.
Brawl. Like, yeah. So I think
you put 5.
Yep.
Oh my god.
I changed some stuff around.
I only have 3.
Well,
That's not what
you
we
gotta
discussed.
learn to excel, and when somebody is beating you, you have to learn to get better. That's her view, and she in a moment she's like dropping her body weight to try and like essentially just roll her whole form full force into your leg, and then she realizes that that's what you know that she will do, and like there's a lot of areas where Quad considers herself to be the best. Fighting someone one-on-one is not it. So she second guesses herself and like levers her body up, and kind of does this very strange kip up to just punch you in the stomach, like arresting her whole motion and just punching you in the stomach, and it doesn't even hit that hard, but it's just like such a clean blow.
It's the double whammy of the kick to the head and then the stomach that makes her double over, but she's gonna grit her teeth and try just to straight up grapple you.
Her moment of arrogance, I think, despite even doing a second blow, is gone because think she sees something in Zyrea that is the competitive beast that she is not.
Yeah, you know, if I could do like it raging, I would be raging, but I can't rage, so.
Yeah, if you were a barbarian, if that class existed, but mine is no good.
24.
And there we go.
You just watch as Zyrea, like, kind of doesn't spit blood out because it wasn't that hard of a hit because you're not doing damage to her. But she just kind of spits and then just goes, screams. I'm not going to scream because that's bad for the microphone. Screams and then just envelops you in like a bear hug and then like does a twist maneuver and makes it so that like there's like almost a full rotation happens and she slams you onto the ground.
I think Quad's like immediately wind gone, like no air in lungs. Not that Quad needs a lot of air in her lungs to begin with, but what she does need, not there. And she's like breathing really heavily, and every blow that she did was like really tiny amounts of like actual pain, and this is like a full body rocking. Like, oh my god. She like looks up and her eyes like take a little bit of time to focus. And she says through like gritted teeth, but I still hit you twice and now I can't continue because my ribs hurt. And she like holds her ribs. Uh, and she like extends her hand so that you can help her up.
Yeah, Zyrea will in one sort of like shit, sorry, Quad, and will lift you up gently.
She like breathes in and it's like you can tell that it's painful to bring the air in, but like as she like stretches her chest and like shoulders out, she's like, oh, maybe I'm not as hurt as I thought I was, but I don't know how people do that night after night all the time.
We only do it every other night.
She like pushes her foot into the soft mat that they're wrestling on as well. Like it's not even a hard floor. She just like shakes her head. I can keep going if you want. She like puts her fists back up, and while she is playing that she's injured, she's like absolutely fine to go one more round if Zyrea wants a chance to equal the ledger.
And if you would like to make an understanding check, or I think actually that would be a good place for a pro wrestling check, Madi, on the fact that
hell yeah.
you have seen this kind of thing before.
Yes. Which stat should I use?
What are you two for pros?
The other skills you can just pick any of the 6.
Like I put the wrong thing into here, so it's listed as saves right now. I think it would have been. It'd probably be charisma or. Strength?
Yeah, charisma.
Okay.
Because you're trying to interpret what she's doing.
Okay, then let me do something really quick because I did not set that up correctly.
Or wisdom, rather.
Wisdom? Oh, I'm actually very wise.
Yeah, make it a wisdom because you're interpreting, not performing yourself.
Okay. So I get a +5. Oh, it's a 7. I rolled a 2.
All right. So yes,
she's like she's looking at Quad and is starting to see double visions of Quad, but it is like starting you can just faintly see a little bit of wooziness from her. The hit to the head is finally settling in. She goes, no, I'm good. Your hits were pretty good actually. Maybe another time. Maybe we can do this again next week.
Sure. Yeah. Let's wait till next week and not tomorrow like normal. And she like rubs her ribs, but she also reaches into. She's got like a zipper pocket. She reaches into it and she pulls out like a couple of pills that are just meant to like oxygenate your blood very quickly and get you like into a restorative state. And she offers you the sleeve to take one.
Your large hand will daintily take one small pill and will just take it, pop it in dry.
Quad takes it with water just also needing to drink more. She like rolls her shoulders out and says, "Man, I didn't think the foot thing would work."
Sometimes I forget that you were so agile.
I think it's important to always be thinking about kicking someone in the face.
Well,
She,
not every wrestling match I've done allows for that kind of rule, or allows for that kind of hit.
yes, wrestling. I was also talking about in the arena of wrestling, and not when people are trying to tell me how to submit my paperwork.
Zyrea
If y'all
sits
would
there like
both
that
make
for
a
30 seconds.
perception check.
Perception.
Perception? Hey, I have
That
plus
is-
2 to that.
That
I
is
already
one
have
of
2
the
ranks.
many things that suffered in my attempt to be the best brawler on the ship.
Uh,
I cannot believe that you changed it to give yourself 5 ranks in Brawl.
I moved some stats around as well, and just didn't think it was
Hey!
as valid. We
Just
did
got
we did
15.
plan to be similarly perceptive, so I like that as our first roll.
so you both notice you hear a faint like whirring sound, a little bit of a clack, and out of the corner of your eye, Zyrea and Quad, more because you're familiar with the sound itself, you both see the camera in the room zooming in. Like you see the little articulations of the camera moving, and it's a very concealed camera. It's not like a big, large CCTV. It's just like a little small hub that's kind of built in. But
We have viewers.
Quad waves in a way that can only be described as sarcastic and condescending to whoever is wasting their time watching them.
Zyrea's like this. It's like, yeah! Yeah! Next
Eventually, Quad is charmed by the enthusiasm of Zyrea and rolls her eyes and like waves a little bit more properly, but is irritated that happened.
the camera jerks again, going back into like the normal standby mode, and there's no like other indication of what's going on. But in that previous room, we see 3 technicians scatter to the winds.
Do you know anyone that's on the security team?
I mean, I know people on the security team that are like me, but I don't know any of the tech guys.
I will ask
Maybe
Celeste,
one?
maybe.
Maybe there's one that I know, but I don't know if he's on shift.
It's fine. I will enjoy getting whoever was in that room in trouble. That will be a fun afternoon for me.
Just don't kick them in the head. You can do that to me, but you can't do that to them.
Are you saying that I shouldn't? Or that I physically can't? Because one of those things is real.
I mean, both, but also you shouldn't.
I absolutely physically can. And she like does a quick, just giant roundhouse kick that would nearly hit you in the face. And says, anyway, let's go see what else is happening.
Okay.
She like begins to walk out and like feels the pill working, and it's like, I feel good again. I could go another one entire slam.
So as Jack provides that excellent transition for me, as they pass through the halls, we hear again the sounds of the different recreation rooms, and I am curious as to what Vito and Selmac are doing.
Is there like a public not like rec area? That's where we are, but it's like more like a kitchen, like a public kitchen.
There is certainly a kitchen. There are kitchens that are meant for like smaller usage, and then there are kitchens that are meant for the ship's prep in general. Are you looking for a small kind of like dinner party sort of kitchen?
Yeah.
Then yes, that is available.
Yeah. So you would find Vito, the 4 foot like 2, pudgy, gray-skinned kind of mix between an aardvark like elephant person, in the middle of this small kind of dinner party like setup. Has off to the side some smooth kind of swingish, kind of blends from swing to blue, whatever he's vibing with at the time. And from the back is definitely kind of doing like the pudgy old man like hip shake while he's at the counter. Has an open door policy to anyone going by that wants food. Probably has offered food many times to different workers that have passed by. Just they have an open availability. Is there anyone that has come in so far?
All right. So in that case, yes, you've had several of the general custodial and maintenance staff on this floor. They know they have a system for when Vito is around or anybody who uses the kitchens in this sort of policy. And so you always have this conspicuous trickle that starts about 3 minutes after he's finished one dish, 3 minutes after the first person comes in, and then someone just naturally happens by, and it's always the same sequence of 5 people. But that's sort of fizzled out now. Those folks have gotten their food, gone back on shift because they aren't on their recreation hours.
Mhm.
And so for this moment, you are cooking with one person sitting in the room, small, pinkish skinned alien, who is just watching you as they eat and just shoveling food into their mouth, not making any conversation, but just staring you down and watching everything you do.
Yeah. In the middle of it kind of turns around. Hey, make sure you get the rice on this side. That's what all the flavor is. This is just Brathian food.
I love rice, of course. And then just shovels a ton of rice into their dish, and then continues this procedure of just and watching you.
Yeah. In the middle of kind of seeming that the rush of providing other people food is cleared, Vito will make himself a plate. And as he usually always does, will go to sit with whoever is there. Sit it down, kind of mind if I grab me some seat? And guys, probably have to do a little hop squat onto the stool to get up.
The alien that has been currently eating your food, looks around and says, there's a lever under the stools. Some of us are very short. You don't have to jump.
No, it's okay. If I don't get this in, it's basically all my cardio.
Oh,
Thank you, though. That was sweet of you. I appreciate it.
It's very good food. I am so happy not to be eating in the mess again. It's much quieter.
Oh yeah, it's dreadful down there. Yeah, Brathian food. It's great. It's all about the spice, the flavor. Very unhealthy though. Very fatty. Might make this once in a time. They don't want to end up like this. But yeah, it's fine though.
Where is Brathian? And you can see them just trying to make conversation, but clearly they're really focused on their food and they're just trying to be polite and show interest here. You don't need an understanding check to know that is the case.
Oh, that's fine. We'll just keep talking anyway. And see, that's the funny thing. I've been making this type of food for, oh god, for a very long time. Fuck if I know. Good food though.
The pink skinned alien finishes their bowl and picks it up, walks over to the area where Vito was doing his prep, what does that area look like? Is that
Oh,
area fully organized, fully clean? Is it messy?
It's a organized mess, and that there is like the section off to the side of like he had out like probably like 9 separate different spice bottles that are all uncapped, but they're all kept together, as well as the cutting board with the chopped whatever like the residue left of the chopped vegetables and whatnot. Everything isn't orderly, but everything is still grouped together. Though noticeably, there is no mess or anything near where the music player was in the room. That's kept clean.
Got it. So the little pink-skinned alien like stretches up, looks at everything, and then begins slowly like capping the spices, and not changing anything, but cleaning everything up, making sure that the mess is removed. And like they're periodically like making mhms, like they're paying attention to what you're saying, but have no like actual interest in it. And they wash their dish, and then they come back to kind of like look around to see if your dish is ready for washing. Thank you again. That was very good.
You're welcome, kid. And don't worry about my plate. I got it. You did more than enough. Thank you, though.
Said kid just exits, like no further comment. And it's kind of like hard to see the transition where they've wandered around to check and see what is needs to be done still, and then the time they just wander off. But then you hear in the hallway, all right, he's mostly like he's prepped and he's eating his own meal now. So tell everybody to stop coming in for a little while, and then just walks away. Okay. Andrew, what is your character currently up to?
I think we cutting away from Vito, we pull into a not like pitch black, but it's definitely dim light room full of what seems to just be computer screens, computer equipment, that kind of things. We see a purple skinned or lavender skinned individual rather with very large headphones on, their head kind of hitting the beat, and we can maybe start to faintly hear the music come in along with this push in. You see that they're pretty handsome. They've got kind of no hair whatsoever, no eyebrows or anything like that. Just like a couple darker splotches where eyebrows would be. Instead of hair, they have kind of almost tentacles. It's not quite like I just forgot the name. What's the Mass Effect race? Asari. It's not. They're not that thick. They're much thinner than like the Asari ones, but it's kind of a similar thing, and it's pushed back like he's got flicked back hair. But they're a little bit longer. They come down like through the shoulders, as opposed to being quite short. And as we push in, we hear like the most bumpin' of beats as somebody is rapidly singing in a completely unrecognizable alien language. And we can see the music abruptly stop as Selmac seems to notice something he doesn't like about it. And he does couple quick hand gestures, and the music starts again from like 5 seconds back. It's slightly different, and then kind of continues going that way.
I missed it. Is Selmac in his room, or is he in one of the recreation spaces?
I think he's in. I think he's in one of the recreation spaces. I think probably the personal computers are, in his opinion, they don't have the correct sound system. But
right,
he's
then
dimmed
by
the lights himself.
Got it. Then by DM Fiat, I declare that Zyrea and Quad, as they were passing through trying to see what else was going on, have seen both of these scenes, right? They've passed the frantic little pink space alien that was warning everybody to let the cook have his own meal. And then they've also heard the sounds of this composition as they've gone by.
Like really strange music, but this is good. Like bobbing her head. She goes, did you know that the way that I hear, it feels like everything is through water, so it needs to have like a high bass anyway? She's bobbing her head along.
This is great. Maybe I can ask whoever's making it to make me a new intro song.
Quad takes that as we should do that now, and kind of is Zyrea in a way that is like no physical contact, but just like Quad moves her body in a way that leads Zyrea to the door, and Quad does not knock and just opens the door, but lets Zyrea go in first.
Hey, that music is great.
No response. You realize that the headphones are large, and they're like, it's loud enough that you guys can still hear. So it's like blasting.
Oh, Zyrea, just offer Selmac some money, then he'll do it.
Well, I was gonna get there, but I want to make sure that they know that we're here first. So then she'll just lean like in front of him and be like,
Kind of glances over and pulls them down to his around his neck before like turning the music down with another hand. He looks at you. He says, "Hello, darling. What can I do for you?"
What?
wasn't expecting that.
I also wasn't, but I think while the question was directed at Zyrea, there's a momentary blink to inside Quad's head where she's just kicking Selmac in the face twice.
Hi, Selmac. That was really good. I really like that a lot. Hey, I have a question for you.
Yes.
If I wanted new walk up intro music for when I do my wrestling matches, could I commission something from you?
Yeah, sure, of course.
Yeah, great. Yeah, whatever you were doing just now was really, really good. But if you want to, do something different, that's also fine. You're a great
I think
musician.
he's gonna pull out a notepad and like start like waiting for you to give suggestions. Were you looking for something in a more Thracian fashion?
What my race is, Jack? I forgot what my race is.
I don't think we named your race, but it's not named that. That's a different race.
Okay, great. I mean, I don't know. I like a lot of bass and something that's kind of upbeat, right? Because I got to pump myself up to fight these people. So, something like that, but also maybe kind of like heroic because I'm a hero, but also that's strong because I'm the Titaness. Like I gotta look strong in front of all my enemies. And then she's kind of just like huh. Yeah, that's what I've got.
Behind Zyrea, Quad is doing sarcastic hype man moves. Like, yeah. And actively not helping explain musically what Zyrea might want.
Zyrea does not know musically what she wants because she's got an intelligence of 7.
Sorry, I just think.
Are you actually taking notes?
No.
Yeah, he is actually taking notes.
It was a good affection of someone that was like taking notes and waiting for something inspirational.
I actually feel like this is a good point for a communications check of some kind for Zyrea. So give me a moment to think that one through. Because I mean, yes, bass, and pump it up, but there's a lot of directions that could go in. Let's see.
On my planet, there was once Quad launches into a story that will not help the situation, but will fill some time. There was a
love you.
man who would we have a lot of oceans, but we only have one lake, and he built like this big wooden stadium in the middle of the lake, but then he wouldn't let anyone sit there, and we had to listen to the music as it like drifted over the water and it warped the music. Just if like I don't think that's what
Cool.
Zyrea wants. You could note that as something Zyrea probably is not interested in.
But that sounds cool.
We
mean, I
also
wish I
had
could've
someone
heard
that
it.
slammed their face directly into a drum for 8 hours. That might be more Zyrea's intro music speed.
I mean, not their face.
They were wearing a mask. It didn't help after hour 5.
All right. So you have two examples of one is wanted, two what is not wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And so you go ahead and Andrew, make an your music production check to see if you can know what they're asking for.
Freeze for a second.
Which is, of course, the hardest part of doing any work for a client ever.
Selmac accidentally composed
With-
Harden's water music as a
Right.
as an intro for Zyrea.
And take it with advantage because they have both worked hard to explain.
I actively worked not hard. I tried to be unhelpful.
I don't know, what do you think this is? Int
I'm-
or charisma?
Yes. You're sussing out what they're looking for. I think it'd be charisma if you were doing it.
Kristen.
Oh, nice.
There you go. That is a solid success. Despite the somewhat disjointed explanation that occurred here, Selmac is just like, I've heard this. I know exactly what you're looking for. And so if you would like to begin work on that, you can, start streamlining that, or if you want to wait for it and tell them that this kind of thing has to wait, whatever you like.
No, I think he stands up. He says, that should be simple, actually. And he throws what he was working on, like, just off the screen with his hand gesture, and flicks something open, pulls out like a couple samples, and starts to immediately stitch them together into like a rough. And then
Hey, Selmac.
hits play, and so it's just playing in the background.
Selmac,
Just
you know how
bobbing her head like.
you know how sometimes people use different sounds as like percussion?
Oh, sure, of course.
Can you use this? And she pulls up on like the ship's like stock database of videos and other stuff, a video of a man getting kicked in the face, and like their cheekbone breaking, and just plays the audio from it. Says, I think that would suit Zyrea.
Okay. He like thinks about it for
Like
a
a
moment.
staccato crunch. Seems good musically.
Pulls it off. Thinks about it.
I airdrop it to you.
Yeah. And he like places it a couple times, looping. So every once in a while, there's like a of a kick.
Zyriea's just vibing in the background, pretending to throw punches, just like.
Any other requests, darlings?
This is great, Selma. This is the best. Thank you so much. How much do I owe you?
Well, my usual fee for such work is a quick audio sample such as this, 1,000 credits. But we are on a ship with script, and That doesn't really work.
As he's saying, like 1,000 credits, as this is going on, there is a ping, and you will all immediately recognize it as a drop what you're doing and pay attention to me sort of ping, and it issues from all 3 of your individual smart slabs, drowning out his further contemplation of what fee should be charged.
It seems that
so-
we're needed.
Yes.
Thanks,
I will
having a
text
good
the
time.
message.
Yes. Okay. And so, as Quad goes ahead and plays the message, we cut sharply away, and we see Vito's also going off. What is Vito currently doing? Quite a while has passed at this point.
Yep.
As
Probably
music production has
Probably
happened.
it's cleaned up. Probably cleaned up the kitchen. And now that he is completely alone, has allowed the music to be louder, and is kind of just sitting in a chair and just kind of swaying to himself with his eyes closed. And then kind of hears the ping go off. Ah, shit. Okay. Goes like start turning stuff off.
And so, presuming that Vito also accesses his message, you get a quick live ship intra-ship communication, and in front of you, you see not the comms officer themselves, but the person just below deals with a lot of these kinds of quick communications, and you can tell that it is a mass communique, right? It's meant for a few people, not a whole lot of people, but it's just being delivered all at once with a few seconds delay. Officer, your presence is immediately requested for an away team mission. If you are unable to complete this away team mission for medical purposes, please send an immediate response. Otherwise, collect your gear for a standard operation, and meet in flight deck 3. And somewhat uncustomarily, though there is a brief pause that you could interject with a question, there isn't an invitation to ask questions, Vito.
Gotcha. Yeah, Vito will move the record player that he had brought in, or whatever the space equivalent of a record player would be, that he had brought into the this kind of recreational room. Move off to the side and kind of like opens up a bit of a panel in the side of it and reaches a hand in and pulls out a pistol that he had stashed in it, clicks it back shut, puts it in whatever pocket he has available, and just kind of, as quickly as he can waddle, over to the door and just reaches up and kind of has to do like a little hop jump and grabs a trilby hat that he puts on and goes out the door.
Oh, beautiful. And as he's like wandering away, presumably still mind on these things, go ahead and make an understanding check with wisdom.
Standing with wisdom. All right.
I love him so much.
I know. It isn't.
This is remind me whenever I play a little character, I need to remind myself that
28.
they're all short.
So, with that 28 and that natural 20, Vito has only communicated with this particular sub officer a couple of times. There's enough people on the ship that even though you know most of them by sight, you don't know them well. But despite that, Vito is so aware of the way people operate. This officer, despite using every bit of training, is in a state of suppressed panic. They are deeply worried, and they are making every effort not to demonstrate it. But you could tell, you saw a flush hidden mostly by their collar. You saw the way they were looking off. They weren't quite looking at the camera. They were looking beyond the camera. and they were nodding every so often, as though they were following specific instructions onto how to deliver this information. And then Madi, Andrew, Jack, you all saw the same message with the same sort of quick inflection, and you are also welcome to make understanding checks. If you would like, you can also make a perception check for something else.
I just assume that he's incompetent. I don't think I need to roll.
That's acceptable. Yes,
that.
you can totally assume that he's incompetent.
While I'm not thinking about his incompetency, I'm tapping away to an intern to grab my spear and bag, which are always in the lab, and bring them because that's their job to like facilitate me as a senior member of staff. And then Quad puts that away, and no matter what Zyrea is doing, says, "I'll race you," and then starts sprinting down the halls.
I will say, if Vito gets the
muted,
impression that this is like a very bad thing that's happening, or like something is going wrong, he will kind of like fish out from his shirt this small kind of necklace that looks kind of weirdly ornamental in an alien way, and we'll kind of just bring it up and give it a like kiss and put it back.
So Madi, Zyrea, everything seems fine. Routine mission. They could have given you more notice. Like normally they would give you more notice on something like this, but clearly some sort of alert missed the thing and they're interrupting your recreation because otherwise they'd have to interrupt somebody else. Whatever. They know that Zyrea is always going to be happy to go down. And
He's like, she's gonna race Quad, but she's like, fuck, all my shit's in my room, so she has to do the roundabout loop, but she's still gonna do her best to try to beat Quad there.
Quad also knew that and wouldn't have suggested the race if she thought it was going to be fair. So,
also, not to interrupt your sweet moment, touching moment there, Chris, but Andrew rolled a 1, which was a 0.
Yeah. Yes, it was. That's a good one. Yeah, Selmac is not only confident that there's nothing wrong with this, but Selmac is like half convinced it's just like a quick training mission, right? This is just a drill. We're not actually going to go down. They're just making sure that we're ready to go down at a moment's notice if we need to. Like, obviously, this is a drill.
Selmac is saying to two smokes. I'm sorry.
Looney Tunes smoke outlines.
Mine's a steam outline, actually.
And so as we see everybody sprinting off, we dial back in time just a few moments, just a little while, and we are once again looking in on the security room. But this time we're at a monitor that doesn't get crowded around, that doesn't get closely assessed, and it's behind a specific wall. Unless necessary, there is nobody here. And it's clear that when we look into the screen that it's because it's the ready room. It monitors the captain's quarters and the area where new missions are emerging. And so at that point, I gracefully transition as I check my notes again. One moment, please. And at that point, we see two individuals, and we're seeing them from the front of the room, so from the doorway. And they're talking, but on this screen, there's no audio without specific authorization. And so as we zoom in, we see a dark, gray-skinned, otherwise humanoid medical officer, about average height. And he has just this faint, placid smile on his face as he talks. Even through the cameras, you can see that this smile never changes. And his body language is very relaxed. And then the person he's talking to, the comms officer, has their fist lightly pressed against their mouth, and they're swaying as they talk. They're vine-like. They have like vine-like tendrils, and they're swaying with every movement they make. And then the door whirs open, and we can't see or hear it from this angle, but both officers turn, drawing our attention to the fact that something's changed. And the camera angle switches, and we look, and we can see from the side Celeste stepping in, and the door whirring closed, the soft snick and light color changing to show that they're in a private ready room once more. And they begin explaining something to Celeste, and Kristen has that information at hand already. So if you would like to go ahead and describe as Celeste enters the room, their initial step in before anything has been said.
Celeste, walking into this room, has already picked a point, probably having like been into this room before, knows exactly what point on the wall she wants to look at so as to avoid eye contact with any of her superiors. So like she finds this point on the wall. She's got a pen in one hand that she's like clicking on and off all the time. And every so often she'll like pat her pocket just to make sure that her anxiety meds are still there, because she has a feeling that this is gonna like kick off real quick. It's never a good thing when you're called in for a special meeting like this.
So with very perfunctory greetings, the comms officer has straightened up, and now that Celeste is present, they've brought their hand away from their mouth, and they've crossed their hands, and they're the picture of composition. And they begin to explain the mission to Celeste. And meanwhile, in the background, the other officer who is wearing a medical insignia on his shoulder kind of like stands a little bit further forward, nodding at Celeste as they're checking their anxiety pocket. I think that this is an officer that probably Celeste has come into contact with multiple times before, and so they just nod, and that small smile grows a little bit larger as they see them pat their pocket, and just almost in like a reflective action. Even though this officer does not themselves or has not revealed taking any sort of anxiety medication, they just mirror that motion to Celeste before nodding to tell the comms officer to begin. So comms officer Brigham explains what you have read.
Heard. And as that like conversation happens, Celeste, like the anxious small movements will definitely stop because as instructions come in, like that helps her feel more at ease, and also knowing that this trusted medical officer is there as well and like approves of like how she's holding herself. The small anxious movements can stop, but she does start pacing back and forth, and every so often will like shove up the glasses that are like sometimes they'll start to fall off of her nose. She'll shove that up, but she keeps like this red thick lens like in place at this time.
And so as that conversation completes, the medical officer passes out a small data stick that can be plugged into the slab. Do Celeste glasses have any sort of data reading capability, or is that solely is it self-contained?
Yeah, the glasses themselves are just glasses that help with her vision, and also the red lens helps filter out information as needed, but that's not giving any inputs. That's just they're normal glasses.
Got it. All right. I thought so, but I wanted to make sure in case I had not paid good enough attention. So in that case, yeah, you're handed a data stick, and that data stick, as the medical officer passes it over, their hands clasp briefly over yours, and it's like a handshake, but also like a squeeze. And the door opens up. And at this point, before you exit, Celeste, you have an opportunity to make a check, and your first check. Hold on. Let's see. My first question for you is, does your character already know Officer Zost from the reading?
What department is Zost in?
Engineering.
I'd expect that she has like a fair, because she tries to keep sort of like a broad base of like knowledge with the engineers because of the nature of her own research. She probably has encountered him at least, or them in some capacity.
Okay. So encountered, but not particularly familiar with them.
Correct.
Okay. Then give me a moment. I'm going to vamp for a second. And by vamp, I mean talk aimlessly while I figure out what I originally wanted to do here. There was something that I wanted to do beyond just making you make this, but unfortunately, I'm just going to make you make a willpower save.
Oh, cool.
That's the biggest acceleration I've ever heard. But actually, just take 40 plus 5 d10 damage, I guess.
There was something that was supposed. It's with advantage. I haven't looked at this roll yet, but it's with advantage because of the delivery of it.
Great. The highest I can potentially get on this is then, in fact, a 20. So
You just get
You'll
a
still
flash
take it.
look. You just get a flash look of Zyrea like huffing and puffing and sprinting. She's now made it to her room, has grabbed her shit, and like Quad probably just like strolling casually.
No, Quad wants to win by a lot.
No.
Oh, she's running.
Selmac's the one strolling
on.
casually.
Oh, okay.
we're
Yeah,
gonna call that
so we're
a
definitely
19.
Yeah, we're definitely gonna go with that first one. Celeste is nervous, but everything still is, under control, right? You're on the ship. There is really nothing to worry about. And so go ahead and carry on. What is everybody doing as they make their way to flight deck 3? I know that we've got 2 people racing. Does anybody else have to stop off and grab things, or are people following protocol and moving their butts to flight deck 3?
I would like to note that one person is winning and one person is losing. We're not racing anymore. Like, as soon as Zyrea had to go elsewhere, we're just going to be roughly the same speed.
Yes.
But no, Quad picks up her stuff from the intern and doesn't even say thank you. Just moves on.
Was Celeste informed of the other people who are going to be on this away team?
Yes, you were given the name, and you have gone on missions with this small team before. Never essentially this composition, perhaps, but you've worked with each other before. This is a not uncommon set of people.
Okay. I think that Celeste, while she's walking, will shoot a text off to two separate messages. One out to Selmac and then one out to Vito. Hey, this is gonna be bad. And then offers nothing else.
Vito, who is already trying to move as quickly as his little legs can carry him. It's just it's just a camera repeated long shot of it's positioned almost in different hallways. So you just see the Vito run through run past the hallway, run past the hallway, run past the hallway, and then gets the message, and then it cuts to the next hallway, but you don't see Vito go by, and a few seconds of pause happen. And then you just see Vito go by on one of those electric hover mobility scooters to go faster.
So as the scene is occurring,
that.
That's gonna be our channel intro when we get this.
As the scene is occurring, several halls behind, you see almost a replay, but this is with somebody who is capable of running, and they keep getting almost close to Vito because they are running faster, but they keep falling behind because they don't know exactly where he's going. And then when he hops on this mobility scooter, far in the background, you see this person just throw up their hands, and they're holding in one hand, they're holding some sort of package, and then they just start running flat out, actually trying this time. And so, yes, y'all are making your way to the flight deck.
I love that we set the precedent that it's normal for away team people to just full sprint through the corridors. It is probably
I think-
normal for Zyrea and Quad.
I think Selmac, if I may, Selmac knows of a much faster way and just assumes that everybody wants to run. So he's like actually ahead of people because he's taken this weird special turbo lift that the others seem not to know about, and he's just never thought to mention it to them. So despite not moving very quickly at all, I think he's actually probably the second to get there behind Quadrissia.
What check am I making you make for that, Andrew? Let's see.
I don't know.
I want to
Bureaucracy
make a check to
or
beat if I can beat
Yeah.
Quadrissia.
computers for to have like uploaded the schematics and perused them.
If you have used your computer skill to look at the schematics, you can do that.
You want me to make a roll?
Yeah, I do.
Can Jack and I make a contested quickness to see
Unless
who
you've
Surely-
used this pathway before.
Surely kinematics.
kinematics?
Like you got to dodge
Either
people
one.
on the way. It's not
Oh,
just
that's
about
true.
pure sprint. Also, my
Oh.
quickness is not as good.
Yeah, uh-huh.
I'm happy to roll off, but I think that generally I should win.
Maybe just roll just to see.
I'm happy to lose as well, but I
Yes.
as Quad don't want to lose.
I'm gonna roll.
Yes, you should roll.
With Dex,
Dex or strength? I would assume Dex.
this is the most important question because it swings it just so far in one person's direction.
Oh,
My Dex is actually pretty close to
Is-
my strength, so
Ah, Charlie.
Yeah.
a 7 or an 8.
this is Dex, because you're trying to dodge people, like Jack said. I am easily led.
Yes.
It's only a 16.
Well-
And I'm only leaving it as kinematics because I'm really hoping somebody crit fails and I can describe you're crashing into each other.
That's very funny. Yeah, it would
But-
be funny if we got there at the same time and just absolutely slammed into each other.
That would have been good.
Oh, that'd been
No,
great.
You beat me.
Yeah, so
it's
it looks
close
like
enough that Quad is irritated. That's the problem.
yeah, but by the time you get there, Selmac is just already like at the ship, like already ready to go.
How far, roughly, in actual, like, for, I guess, you all, Imperial distance, is that to cover, like, running?
An awful lot is my very well considered answer.
You know.
I
Do I not have a D20? Is that... There it is.
Yeah, like I don't know the range of this ship. I don't know how big this variance is.
Yeah, it's probably a lot. Depends on where the recreation center is. Quad, like, walks up and is walking fine. Like, as the adrenaline of being full sprinting the whole time has not worn off. And then just her breathing gets heavier and more labored. And she's, like, full panting and trying to, like, get oxygen. She, like, pulls out a giant water bottle and is just like,
By nature of you being the one to get the briefing, Celeste, you probably arrive after everyone except for Vito. And as Vito is rolling in, and you are making your way to the bay, it's very clear what ship you're expected to take, what shuttle, because there aren't a lot of shuttles going anywhere at this hour. And so while basic mechanic work is being done, etc., there is a large area that is, cleared and ready for flight. And as Vito zips up, from the ship itself emerges a medical officer, not the same one that you were just talking to, Celeste, but just somebody that, handles a lot of injuries on a daily basis, often finds himself in medical bay. Often finds herself in medical bay. And she looks at each one of you, counts 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, looks back to the ship and is like counting on her fingers. Very tall, yellow-skinned, angular-featured person. And they are looking back, then back to you, then back to the ship. And they go, ship's ready. Everything you need should be there on deck. You're golden. I've already heard 2 of my colleagues asking to join this mission. Officer Zoft's real popular down with us. he brings the medical staff iced thematic biscuits. You know the deal. Like,
I'm
we
walking
wouldn't.
off.
And like, as she's like rambling, she's like, we wouldn't provide preferential medical treatment to anyone for treats, but I mean, just make sure you get them back safe, okay? And there's 10 seats on this shuttle, so if you need an extra hand, I know you're all good at this. They've kind of
Actually,
made up.
piloting the weight load, it's been set up. As Quad goes in to turn the ship on.
It's just sitting there, hands on her knees, trying not to barf, because the hit to the head actually hurt a lot, and then running for that long.
The hit to the head
messed
did
up.
1 hit point of
I
damage.
rolled a
'cause that's the
natural 1 on
maximum
my
I can
die
do.
that I just rolled.
I
to
rolled
see.
a 5. They're just so bad. Yeah, I'm gonna go get the
You
ship
see this
started.
tall 6 foot like hulking figure just like.
The person that keeps like rambling, Vito is 100% like getting on the ship, but is doing that thing where like is going, oh yeah, yeah, oh yeah, like as like Vito is actually getting on the ship and like kind of departing, but in the way that doesn't make them feel like he's not, like he's just completely ignoring them.
The antithesis of Quad.
Celeste is keeps trying to find like a moment to break into the rambling, but between Vito like nodding and also talking, and Quad shooting back comments throughout the away ship, she can't quite like get in a moment to start speaking here. And at some point, she just sort of looks between Vito, who is trying to get into the ship, and the medical engineer, who is still talking and trying to invite themselves on the away mission, and just sort of scuttles past and is extracting herself from this situation.
I think that's my cue to go. Nice meeting you though, kid.
As all of this goes on, somebody, gently steps past Selmac, and just kind of like grabs the medical officer by the shoulder. Seriously? You went through the same training that we all went through. Act a little more professional. Best of luck.
Does our shuttle have exterior like speakers that will pipe in what's happening outside?
Absolutely. There's also like full screening, so that you can see, even if you're in the bay, what's going on.
Quad clicks the button to speak to the outside and says, "Going through the same training doesn't mean anything if you're incompetent and a fool," and then unclicks it.
Rhea will go, that's my cue. I'm gonna go inside now. And just kind of like has to like swallow, steals herself, and walks up into the ship. Has to duck underneath is too tall for the doorway, so she has to duck a little bit to get in.
It took Quad 40 seconds to actually get enough breath to say that sentence without like panting. And she spent that whole time not getting the ship ready, but preparing herself to insult that person. She's sitting in the pilot seat. She would normally sit in the captain's seat of the shuttle, but is pointedly leaving it open because she's not the captain for reasons that she is not aware of.
What is Celeste doing at this point?
Celeste is doing her best now to sort of like usher the rest of the group in, so that she can give the briefing. She is also not taking up residency next to the captain's seat at this juncture, but she does. Well, I'll make a check for that. I'm gonna make an understanding check if that's DM approved to see if she gets why Quad has not taken up the captain's seat here.
Half of the reason that I'm DMing for you people in particular is because you will make your own checks and your own advantages.
Do you want that to be understanding or charisma? Me deciding to make this check.
It's an understanding check, and hold on.
It
I'm looking
should be charisma based on the system, but
yeah, because there's wisdom versus charisma, and are you trying to just figure out what's going on with it, or are you trying to?
I think charisma, just suss out where Quad's head is at.
Yeah. That's fair. Go for charisma. Thank you, Jack.
She's also even more snarky and more vocally snarky than probably Celeste is used to. Oh, just roll. Quite good.
Yeah.
That was a 16.
Pretty decent to me.
I would say that's enough for you to know that Quad is always irritated when not in charge. But I think Celeste also knows why that's the case. But Quad doesn't know who's in charge either.
So Celeste will she puts a hand on the captain's chair and does a quick head count. Is there anybody who's coming with us who's not like one of us players?
There is not, but has Selmac entered the ship yet?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just going on.
So there is nobody on the shuttle that shouldn't be, and there's nobody not on the shuttle that should be. Has Quad closed the doors yet, or is this ship sitting open?
The door's in between each person, so as to not let non-us people on the ship.
Nice. Is the hatch open?
No, I think she was. As soon as she finished insulting that person, she's like, well, I should get ready for liftoff. And she pulls out like a really long cable and she attaches it into the dashboard. And as soon as Selmac comes in, pulls it, and it's on like one of those windy things, and hands it to him to put some music on when we start taking off. She doesn't
you
like
hear
quiet.
The entire ship hears a like clatter on the door. Somebody rapidly knocking, like the hatch has just as it closes.
Waiting for an order from someone, but not looking at anyone.
I look at Quadrissia. One,
Okay,
three,
someone
four.
open the door. Just
I
making that
believe
call.
we're all here. I'll hit the open button.
It'll just take a minute.
We both hit the open button, which means it stays closed. And then Quad looks at Selmac and presses the button.
The door open, and there's a small pink alien who is heaving breaths, staring at Vito, and holding a small, like, very nicely, tightly sealed up package. Just a gift from us down in maintenance, and just shoves it at you. And then seeing the person.
Well, thank you. Man, you really shouldn't have ran with that drone. I was telling you, it's not healthy for you. That was a very bad call. Thank you, though.
I also believe that you're not allowed to be up on this flight deck.
Quad whispers to Zyrea, that person's really out of shape if running made them like that tired.
I know, it's just he walked off and I didn't get to give it to him. And just training plan. At that, Creature's eyes just go wide, and she's like, I'm for you. And same way that earlier happened, like we're just vanished in the middle of like washing dishes. Same thing happens now. And the bay is silent, but far in the distance you hear once more a clatter and professionalism. There's going to be a mandatory seminar in the coming days on professionalism around away teams.
Selmac's music.
Yeah, Vito's just carrying whatever the package is under his arm. Is a good kid, weird kid, good kid though.
I start the takeoff protocols and wait for like everything to be ready on the ship's end for us to take off, and say to everyone, "Who was that? I've never seen that person before."
I honestly have no idea.
I never got their name, but I gave them dinner.
You give everyone dinner.
Yeah, I know. That's why it doesn't really help me.
So Celeste, who has been like anxiously drumming her fingers against the seat of the captain's chair, like that motion also starts to still, and like with sort of the same like energy that like seeing the medical officer earlier, like how that chilled her out a little bit. Having Vito do that interaction also sort of like chills her stuff. She goes, okay, I've got someone here who's not going to make me feel stupid or unwanted at any point, and that makes me feel better. And with that, she does excuse me, I need to call everyone to attention. It's time for the briefing.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, Dr. Wicked.
I turned the
Hey.
music off.
Okay. So as you all may be aware, 2 days ago, an away team was sent down to investigate the asterisk that is the planet Merrick. They have not returned, as is obvious. We have not seen them in several days. And they have also sent a series of incomprehensible distress messages. The communication from Officer Graham, the primary for the mission, has not provided sufficient information for us to gain an exact location of the party. So we will be placing scanners in strategic locations, and then she sends out on everyone's smart slabs pings with where she has decided these strategic locations are within this square space that we've centered them on. So this is in order to best triangulate their locations. Additionally, there are some strange
Make
messages.
a perception check.
Okay.
That's for you, Charlie. Like, Quad doesn't
Oh.
put it on.
I thought it was Quad. Go ahead.
No.
Carry on. Yes.
Do I need to make that perception check?
No, you don't. Carry on.
Okay.
Keep delivering. Jack, you can send in a DM.
Additionally, there have been some strange messages from Officer Zost, which indicate that maybe we don't have a clear picture on the actual status of this community, even though we had indicated that they were indicated as spacefaring in our logs. So we do need to go dark, and we need to make a point to not contact anyone while there. Does anybody have any questions so far, or are we good to go?
Seeing Zyrea raise a hand, he will cede the floor.
I'm gonna get to punch something.
You're
It can be a
here
tree.
for a reason.
It can be a tree, but do you think I'm gonna get to punch something?
I would very much like to avoid that, but you are here for a reason. So clearly, in deciding the team, that was an option or an opportunity, I guess, as you would call it. That was foreseen.
All right, and then you'll just hear her mumble to herself, "Tightness, get ready for round one," as she buckles in and.
So before you make your request, Jack, I do want Kristen also to make that theoretical science roll first for where you placed them initially, and then was that the same question, Jack? You're gonna follow up?
Yeah. Oh, no,
and then
my
you're basically
question was what I sent to you. Was like,
yeah,
we'll double check whoever put those beacons down because that's my job.
Yeah.
But Quad is also starting to pilot the plane with one hand while looking at her smart slab with the other to like do this maths. But is focusing on the maths.
I think that's a good juncture, real quick, before before I resolve roles, etc., to like tell you what the format of the shuttle is. This is a very large shuttle for the mission that you're on. But given what has just been explained to you, that suddenly starts to make sense. It's 10-person shuttle, so you don't even really you just take up about half of it. And there's like a small command center, which is where Quad is located. There are in that zone with the captain's chair and the co-pilot / navigator's chair. There's 3 chairs total. And then the back section is a little bit of like a bay. There are 6 chairs facing each other, so 3 on either side, and there's like a central area. And then there's like a final back seat that kind of faces towards the hatch. And Zyrea, at least, is familiar with that's a great seat to be a gunner from the open hatch if necessary, because there is no weaponry on this ship. There are shields, but the shuttle is for reconnaissance, the shuttle is for concealment, and it does not have ship-based weaponry. You are intended to get the heck out of Dodge if you are in space combat in the ship. And so let me check out those rolls for you. And so, okay. But Kristen, that's your role for the original placements?
Yes.
Okay.
1-4.
Celeste beat Quadrissia's reliable by 1, so I don't just automatically win.
Nice.
Yeah, so I think Quad checks the maths and then sends a message like separately to Celeste that was like, "Your maths is very good."
Yeah, and so those.
Nope. Charlie, go.
I was just gonna say the locations look good. They are following all protocols that you would normally set. But with that roll, you've also noticed one spot, like geologically, where yeah, the computer would have told you to place something there, but you've actually eliminated it from the list.
Okay.
Do I also notice that with the 23, which is my reliable total?
Yeah, thank you for the mention of the reliable, because I forgot about it. You said you beat it by 1. I should pick that up. Yes, you do notice it.
Yeah, so I lost by 1, but
yeah, you notice it as well. That there's basically this spot where if you were running this as a sim or for a novice student, every single person would have put a beacon on this hill. But you're like, that's not a stable enough spot. It's going to reverberate. That signal is going to be trash.
I add to the note that I sent Celeste. Did they suggest this location? And she draws a frowny face for that spot. I'm still piloting the ship out of the hangar while I'm messaging this.
If we've like disintegrated out of like debriefing mode.
No. Selmac has been waiting to ask a question very patiently.
You should message your questions, is Quad's feeling, but she won't say that. Then you get preferential treatment.
And seeing Celeste kind of look around and feel like everybody is done, there's a moment where you go to do something else, and Selmac's like, could you describe the unintelligibility of these distress signals?
Well, in terms of the signals that are very obviously a distress signal, a lot of the transcripts have been rendered to a point where we're only getting a word or two, and we've not been able to extract any of the data from regarding location. I'd be happy to send those your way if you'd like to listen to them. Additionally, Officer Zoss has been sending out messages that our psychologists on the ship have deemed a form of hysteria.
I understand. Thank you for answering my.
Would you like those files?
No, I was just curious, and if you meant that they couldn't be understood, or if they were nonsense. There's possibly something I could have done to the audio files in the former situation. Or, excuse me, the first situation.
Yes, it does seem to be a little bit of both.
Celeste would know, given their general computer's familiarity, that Selmac is right. He could probably do something to this information. Whether he can do it in the time available, the reason probably that the ship's officers hadn't already done it and interpreted it, they probably did their best, but you're familiar with Selmac having music production skills, like a slightly different skill set that might let him go at it from a creative method instead of just the scrubbing that the audio engineers would have done.
So even though Selmac has said he's not interested, Celeste is going to airdrop those files, those audio files to him, and we'll go, I'm not entirely sure if you will be able to do anything with these, but you do have a certain type of expertise that I know our data team does not necessarily have, nor do I necessarily have. So I would be interested in giving you this instruction. Like, if you can maybe make something of these or extract some additional information from them by the time we land, that could potentially be very useful.
As I I've already said I'm happy to take a look.
I think as captain of the this particular away mission, she grips the seat a little more, going, "No one has taken this seat for me, and I feel like it needs to happen soon." I am going to make that request. Yes.
Very well. Just waiting for you to send him the files.
I already airdropped them to you. And Charlie, you send Andrew, I guess, what needs to be sent to him.
Yeah. And what I'm going to have you do, Andrew, is if you're going to use like the flight duration, which won't be exceptionally long, but you are hold on. Oh my god, my dog is really loud right now. You are beyond a sort of like satellite ring, which is where the variants kind of settled in to observe the situation. And so the flight itself will take, I don't know, Jack, less than an hour to get at sublight.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Who knows?
So that's going to take
An
less
amount
than
of
an
time that
hour.
doesn't matter.
Yes, an amount of time. So during that time, you can use that to work on these files if you like. And you will make a music production check. And then, let's see. In just a moment, I'll describe what you can see from the viewport, etc. Quad does their stuff.
20.
Yeah, 20. All right. So give me a moment to tap that out. And then let's see. Quad, as what you're seeing, so as this is happening, the shuttle lifts off. Everything on ship side is very very professional. Unlike the chaos that met you when you actually arrived at the bay and tried to leave, the flight control has their shit together. They let you out. What is your preferred path or strategy from navigating these? Are you going straight through? Or are you going around? Trying to prioritize speed or conserve fuel?
No, quad particularly when flying. Since joining the variants and like, normally she flies as the team lead on away things, but in this case, she also is like, well, getting to the planet is the most important thing, because if we lose this ship on the way because I recklessly did something, that would be crazy. So she just flies the safest way possible. If she can set the computer to do most of the work, she will do that, and work on a mathematical unsolvable paradox that she has been working on for a few months.
Does anybody else have a way that they will be while Quad is sort of piloting, mostly doing maths, and what?
In my doing maths, I will send Celeste occasional things to double check, and also send the exact same questions to Zyrea, and just cross-reference the information I get. One where it's like a known quantity that the answer is wrong, because it's like a probability paradox. So she's just trying to get as much input as possible.
All right, Zyrea, Celeste, are you engaging with this?
Zyrea is busy cleaning, like going through bit by like every single nut and bolt, not every nut and bolt, but all of the parts of her armor, and checking all her weapons and making sure everything is in ship shape for a planet side mission. So she's very focused on that.
Quad says, check your messages. Zyrea.
Fine.
While this conversation is happening, I just want
What
you
does
to
she
know.
see?
I'll type it out for you.
Okay.
Once we're underway, the music that is playing is something that is not Cage the Elephant, but has the same vibes.
Cool, I guess.
Space, the elephant.
Yes.
Every time Quad tries to skip, it just skips to another Cage the Elephant type song. It's like, how many could there possibly be? And then she gives up.
Like a 100-hour playlist of Cage the Elephant style music.
Vito's just sitting in his chairs. Yeah, not really my jam, but you know.
Also, every so often, as Quad is sending Celeste these, also, she will send back an eye roll emoji and a correction.
You get the most sharp glare of Quad being like, I know that I sent you one that was wrong. That's part of the paradox. And then she looks at you again, and it's just like, I think when you first got to know Quad many, many years ago, it's like that look that she had when she was nowadays imagining kicking someone in the face. But back then, imagining just eviscerating every piece of research work they'd ever done and just ending their career. But then every time it kind of softens into half a smile. And one time she sends you back a correction.
I think at that point, Celeste, the message that Celeste will send Quad is, well, maybe if you sent me the whole problem instead of these piecemeal parts of it, we get to a better solution.
She actually turns to you and says, it's Billywhax's probability paradox. It's one of the most famous unsolved mathematical equations. If you don't know it, and she sends you a link to it, it's Space Wikipedia.
Celeste is going to keep this to text messaging because now she's a little bit irritated and knows that making those
the right choice.
And goes, the particular integrals that you had been sending me that seem to be so fundamental to this paradox are also present in most solved problems of the universe as well. Generality helps no one.
Quadrissia takes her eyes fully off the sky and is rubbing her temples and is she will respectfully, and I think knowing Celeste a bit better than she had in the past, will type it out, be like, yes, I'm not asking you to help me solve this as a collective duo. I'm just sending you maths so that I can get back your input so I can do half the maths. The math still stands on its own.
She sends Quad a link to an online calculator.
I turned the music up.
When you do that, you just see Zyrea holding her smart slab in her hand, and she's got grease all over her fingers. She's like, I think you broke your keyboard. And we'll just kind of toss her smart slab back on her seat and continues to work on her armor.
Seeing this argument break out.
This was this was a 3-person group chat.
No, they were separate intentionally.
She just shouted that out loud.
Quad goes to her notes, and she normally types them, but when she's doing annotation on stuff, she has a stylus, and she writes, I shouldn't have really expected lesser mathematicians to be helpful. Lumping you in with Zyrea.
I know that Selmac has a -1 to wisdom, but I feel like the tension is palpable. So the music switches to heavy metal.
Oh, I turned it up more.
Zyrea's bobbing her head as she's working on cleaning the
barrel
of her pistol.
How often has Vito gone on missions with Selmac? And how regular of an occurrence is it?
I think that's up to y'all's. If you have been, I think you've been on a mission with each other at least more than twice. But if it's regular, kind of depends on whether you've gotten along on previous missions.
Or like we've all been
Vito,
together at some point in various other configurations with other teams. And
I
this
mean,
is
Vito
the
doesn't
person
have it
where
out for
it's
anybody.
just us 5.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think Vito's fairly easy to place, so personnel officers are just like wherever. And Selmac thinks he's easy to place, but occasionally gets like there are like several people whose personnel files have requested to not work with Selmac again. And whenever they're being like discussed, like because eventually this kind of thing becomes a thing where, you know, personnel officer has to actually talk it out. And it's never anything big. Like the person who doesn't want to work with Selmac again isn't like, oh, I hate him, he's terrible. They're just like, I just think he doesn't get me, but he thinks he does, and that's a little awkward.
Put everybody except for 2 people on that does not want to work with on an away team, and it's Vito and Zyrea, because she thinks the 3 of them kind of do work as a trio of people doing a job. Her and Celeste are too much the same skill set. It's like, I like Celeste. I want to travel with her, like to do science together for this exact reason.
As the very loud music plays, Vito just kind of to himself, just kind of, oh boy, and kind of just reaches into a side pocket of his like suit and pulls out these like foldable like earmuffs that he has to take his massive ears and kind of like fold them one over the top over his head so he can actually get the muffs on. So now it looks like he has like a weird fringe of ear over his forehead.
I'll look over and I'll say, sorry, old chap, and switch it to basically elevator music. But
I knew it was
like,
coming.
you know,
Vito is like 1,000 yards staring. So you can't
Selmac
hear
definitely
anything
thinks that it's hot because he's like in it. Everything that he's played so far, he's like in it. It doesn't matter what's going on or what the music is.
I leave it
Also-
up because the lack of bass means that I can't hear it.
How is it very visible how like still kind of manically stressed Celeste is?
I guess compared to what baseline?
Celeste.
This is normal.
Yeah, I think that Celeste is not quite at her baseline stress, like probably like still like a tick above that. Most people would recognize that as Celeste being calm, but I think Vito's probably maybe you got a reasonable measure on that. I don't know.
Be an understanding check. Sure, it's an
Charlie's
understanding
nodding.
check.
I was nodding, and then
okay.
my
was
light
looking at the
wasn't turning
screen,
up green. So yeah, no, you're good.
Normally, people are on the dice roll channel and can't see the nods.
Yes, this is true.
I'm gonna add that to my notes.
I had a quick question for somebody, and I have become distracted from it. Let's see. Oh yeah, that was the question. Damn.
28.
You understand
Yes,
everything.
you can see that Celeste, who has a diagnosed anxiety disorder, has anxiety right now.
With that, Vito will kind of like take one of the earmuffs and kind of like put it off to the side, doing a little of those. And we'll kind of just like hop out the chair that he's sitting in and kind of waddle over and kind of tap her.
Celeste has been like buried deep in like math sassing with Quad, and that makes her jump a little bit. Were there any questions about the briefing? Anything that you need me to explain better?
You're doing good, champ. Remember to breathe. It's okay. I know it's real bad. We're already on our way there, though. We're here to make it better. Okay? You're doing good.
Yes, you're. We're chosen for a reason when we've done this before. I'm very worried about. Some of my friends are on that mission. Some of your friends also. Thank you.
I'm going to help. Not a lot we
You're
can
right.
do on the way there, but when we get there, we're there to help. Okay.
Celeste, she makes her shoulders relax like just a little bit.
And
As
you could go ahead and leadership roll on that one, Chris, if you wanted to see
The
how much you
charisma-
settle Celeste down.
The charisma skill I didn't invest a whole bunch into.
But it is on my list of things that I have tagged for you to get opportunities to roll, and so we're gonna do it.
So glad we're all so leadery.
Aww.
And in the end, Celeste, who Kristen was going to be like, "Yeah, I'm reassured." How does
Is that-
Celeste feel about
Is that
this?
Well, what-
under reliable?
No, actually, with that brought up, not to want to like back up roll or whatever. Out of curiosity, because I think I've put this in before as far as like a trait for Vito. He's not really an optimist. He's actually quite pessimistic. So he doesn't believe really what he's saying.
Oh no.
I don't know if that changes anything. My reliable isn't deception.
Okay.
Okay, yes, it does change something. That would make it a deception check because you are trying to deceive, not lead.
Very
So
funny.
I
I'll
100% go with that reasoning.
keep the low roll. The reliable
Oh,
is 20.
Okay.
Like,
So yes.
So should I'll make a perception against that then?
Yeah. Or
Question mark?
would it be understanding or perception, Jack?
It's definitely understanding.
Okay, yeah.
Sorry,
So,
Bert, never-
understanding roll.
Oh, it's like willpower if it's your anxiety overcoming the
Yeah.
If it's like for your anxiety to overcome that, you're rolling your willpower because you're like saving to not. I don't know, it's a weird one. That's why I'm not GMing this character.
Doesn't matter. Anything that you could have like made me roll that with it doesn't matter what the modifier was. Because that was a base level 8, and of those different stats, the highest I could have added was a 3.
Nice. Ouch. So yeah, I was perceiving that as you understanding against like the intent of deception, right?
Mhm.
So you did. He successfully deceived you. You have no idea. Like he believes this 100%.
So what starts is Celeste like forcing her shoulders to relax because this is an exercise that she's had to go through. Probably one of the requirements for being on a mission, like being on a ship in this capacity, is that you go through the different like psych evaluations and work with your doctors. So she goes through that exercise of like forcing her shoulders to relax, and then in hearing Vito, who is a figure in her life that she trusts implicitly, that like turns into like an actual relaxation, and like she sort of sinks deeper into the chair, more relaxed, but like sort of lets her head fall into her hands and goes, Vito, I never feel like I'm up to shit like this, and I don't want to fuck it up.
no one ever feels like they're up for anything like this. Anyone who says they are, they think they are. It's a lie. Everything goes south eventually. You always feel like things will go south. It's when you actually get there that you actually know.
Celeste shoots a side eye at Quad, who she like adores as like one of her like friends and like colleagues, but the overinflated confidence and arrogance, I think, strikes a chord in this conversation here.
Quad is side-eyeing Zyrea about the nonsense that this old man is speaking. Like, you should always think you're going to succeed because you're going to succeed. Like, it's a crazy way of thinking.
Zyrea is just vibing and isn't actually like looking at Quad. She's vibing and cleaning her armor.
Quad is taking calming, like, from the fact that Zyrea doesn't notice any of this stuff and isn't irritated by the math discussion. that's calming Quad down. And also the music is not there anymore, which is less
No,
good.
there's elevator music now.
Yeah.
Doesn't have enough bass
Mia
to
has not noticed.
pierce.
Has not
Oh, okay.
noticed the change in music and is still just vibing, but now it's just elevator music.
I actually think that if this is allowable, I pulled up the keyboard app on my Sparts lab, and I'm
I see no problems.
improvising- I'm improvising to the elevator music, which I'm
You're
happy to make a roll for.
you're DJing elevator music.
He's jazzing
Yeah,
up the
I'm
elevator
jazzing it
music.
up.
Yeah, there we go.
There's very few things Quad doesn't think she's better at than most people, and watching like an actual artist do stuff, she's like, I can do tattoos, but this is like why she gives Selmac the chord every time they're on an away trip together. Because she's like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Celeste will with the music change, Celeste also snorts and goes, it reminds me of home almost. Waving around.
Yeah, that's more than allowable. If you want to turn that into an instrumentals, you can, but I think that you're familiar enough with the stuff that it is fine. But if you want to turn it into an instrumentals, and you roll well, I might add it to a list of things that I'm thinking about in the background.
Yeah, no, I'll make a roll. I like rolling things.
While Andrew's rolling, Quad like turns to look at Celeste and say, "This reminds me of that time that we went to that lecture of the person that was fully of the belief that every planet was a needle, and every shape within the universe was a single needle." Do you remember that?
Well, it's interesting from a philosophical standpoint, but the problem with arguments like the ones that he was presenting is they're not provable or disprovable. So they're not interesting from a scientific perspective.
They weren't interesting from a listening for 2 hours perspective.
Vito
Your
just to
patience
himself.
with people is famous, and I'm so proud of you for making it through.
There's like a moment of Quad thinking back to that and thinking of like a small flask that was in like her pocket that she had drunk from heavily before and then refilled and just got through it by pretending that it was like a spoken word art piece.
I rolled a
I want to
1.
be very that was sarcasm on Celeste's part.
Our role
Look.
understanding, Quad doesn't really notice this stuff.
Glance around though.
I've been sitting there in the background, like imagining what has happened to the music, right? Like the perfectly fine elevator music.
I think it's my interpretation of that one would be that it's just that something's just not flowing. Like the improvs that he's doing is just not working with the music that's already there, and to Zyrea and maybe Vito, like they probably don't even recognize that it's bad, because they're not familiar with the genre of music and whatever, and it's still a 6. But to Celeste, you could tell that like something about what's going on. Maybe it's his like telepath powers picking up the very negative vibes in the room. That Selmac is having artist block, and it is just not working.
Well, and you're also in the background composing and working
Yeah, I'm
on that
editing that
20
other
that you
thing.
had rolled for that audio engineering project, right? So like you're doing multiple things at once. So at that point, it's been quite some time, and Quad is on an approach vector, and now you can see this planet much more clearly than you could from the ship with the satellites kind of in the way. It's gorgeous. It's about 1.25 times the size of a lot of commonly inhabited planets, which is another reason that a survey from afar might make somebody mistake it as a giant of some sort. Just like the softest, foamiest green clouds. And you can see areas where there's sort of electrical activity that light up little streaks of dark violet within these clouds. And as you look around, you've already had it confirmed by the scans and the data and the information that Celeste shared with you. But there are no satellites that travel around. There's no debris. Quad, something that as a pilot doing kind of approach vectors frequently, you are aware of and know how to compensate for, is how to do less damage to your shields by avoiding orbital debris. But this planet is fairly clear of orbital debris. There's not an issue that you're having to avoid that. As you come in, begin to make your final descent, what does everybody do? There are protocols that would suggest that you would sit, right, and lock yourself up, that you would put your full crash netting on. But that is one of the protocols that people can be a little bit lax about. They will always sit, and they will often put in their, main strapping, etc. But will they actually worry about all of the fine details? Will they secure everything that they were holding, that they carried on? Did they tie down their bags? People can be lax about that.
Actually turns to check everybody because she won't land with people, like she won't even begin to approach the ground in this instance without people being actually locked in, because we don't know what happened to whatever came down here last. So she will be looking, checking who has done up everything, double checking Zyrea's like you might a child.
Zyrea, thank you very much,
Zyrea.
is actually very particular about her gear once it's been cleaned. She has put all of her armor back on. Her pistol is strapped to her thigh. Her greatsword is strapped in its sheath against the wall as it's supposed to be. 3 straps are all done up tight on that, and she is in her seat and just has the main strap done. She does not have the rest of her netting of her crash harness on.
Zyrea, put the full harness on.
I don't need it. It's fine.
We don't know. Something might be shooting down the ship. And
Where?
I think other people, well, we don't know what happened. I think other people might be able to see that one of the, I assume this shuttle has like ejector seats. One of them has like a little star sticker next to it. And it's Zyrea's one, because that's who Quad would eject if she could only eject one person. So she's like looking at this seat and like having a slight battle of wills with Zyrea that she's never won before and isn't going to win now. So she moves on to everybody else.
Celeste is meticulously putting all of like the straps together, buckling herself down, buckling her stuff down. Hearing this argument between Zyrea and Quad, will shout, "As your captain, Zyrea, I highly recommend you follow all the protocols." And then we'll shift the red lens, flick the little switch on her glasses that shifts the red lens out of its socket so that she can like monitor how the approach is going.
Oh, Zyrea is one to follow chain of command, but as a slight rebellion against that, because she still doesn't want to like through Celeste, therefore listen to Quad, will just do half of the safety bit.
Half that Celeste can see.
Yeah, the only half that Celeste can see.
The smartest loophole Zyrea's ever found.
Yeah, so
that's her one brain cell moment for the day.
Now, Kristen, since you specifically said that you're monitoring situation, etc., you can go ahead and do a perception check on that one to see if you notice this this trick.
Uh-oh.
And how subtle were you? You want to run it as deception, Madi? What were you gonna say, Andrew? Sorry.
Yeah, I'll do deception, but I'll do it at disadvantage because it's difficult to roll to do that.
While these rolls are happening, Selmac has somehow has too many straps on.
Selmac is using 2 seats worth of safety.
Yeah,
There's like the belt on the side of the wall to secure like large objects, and somehow like Selmac's arm is attached to the wall now.
Hey, it's gonna be a hot, dirty one. Throw a 2 minus 1.
Oh my god. So Andrew, you're in computers, but not applied engineering, right?
Yes.
Like that's not your thing at all.
Yes.
Seems fine to you. Using 2 harnesses worth a seat.
Yeah. You know, twice as good is better, right?
All right. Celeste, if you saw that, which is your own call because it's happening right in front of you, but you are distracted by this terrible lack of deception here, as as Celeste as Zyrea just shrugs on one shoulder, kind of like when you're on a plane and the passenger, as the flight attendant walks by to see that everyone is, clicked their buckles, somebody just kind of clicks their buckle and makes a loud clicking sound, but it's just sitting across their lap because turbulence doesn't apply to them somehow. I didn't state this, but I'm going to state it anyway because I will want everybody to have a chance to make these checks. Even though y'all are in the bay, because there was only 3 seats in the sort of command module, this shuttle is rigged up for good observation. So Kristen, that perception that you are intending to do, you have plenty of field of view to do it with. But Vito and Selmac and Zyrea also have that option, and obviously Quad is doing the landing sequence.
Mhm.
So you actually have your choice on this one. Did I cut anybody off who was planning to do something in this moment?
I don't think we ever heard Vito's belt situation.
Yeah,
Because I'm not landing until all of the belts are done. It's just
Vito.
except for
Vito is completely strapped in, but due to the fact that all of these chairs are relatively uniform whenever they are made, like every other time he has ever been on one of these shuttles, while he is completely strapped in, the X belt that crosses the chest is literally under his neck, so he's just sitting like this.
Surely they make a for this.
I think Quad looks at Vito and is like, well, that's not right and that's not safe. And then, but out of the corner of her eye, her engineer brain is looking at whatever has happened to Selmac. And it's like, we could do this with 3 people, and just starts taking the ship down. If I have to eject 3 of us, I know the 3 that I'm ejecting first.
Oh, man.
Oh, God.
Selmac will get his arm ripped off if I have to eject Selmac, so. That's how quickly her resolve failed
God,
in the
I feel
light
like
of
we just got ended there,
Ship blows up, we all die.
Okay, so as you pass through the canopy of clouds, you actually have your choice on checks here, because we have a notable lack of perception among the crew, and there are other things that you can see. You can see the general condition of the plant life and how that's spread out. You don't immediately see any animals, any fauna, but you can see that. So if you would like to assess what you can of the planet from above via xenobotany or theoretical science in a sense of how planets are generally formed and what kind of terrain they have, or just a plain old perception check. You can roll any one of those, and everybody should make a roll, unless you are not looking out the windows and not paying attention to the movement of the shuttle at all.
Is it intelligence or wisdom for theoretical science?
Int. Well, yeah. Int.
24 xenobotany.
Beautiful.
23 with my reliable in theoretical science.
I got a dirty 20 on
Nice.
perception.
28 for theoretical science.
I like how much you are a better scientist than Quad today.
Oh, that's nice.
She is technically piloting a ship, I guess.
14 on perception, not 15. I accidentally put an extra point there.
Okay. So I am going to resolve all of that at the start of the next, because it's a little bit past where I said we would take our break. And then this way we can just start with what you know as we start the next scene. And Andrew, at that point, I'll also your scanning and processing of all these files will presumably be done. Anything that I need to write down before we go to break that I've missed? Y'all all have got to do what you want to do. The checks that you needed to make.
Is there water on this planet?
There were coastlines in the original narrative, so
I'm aiming for water. Like, I want to land where I'm meant to land, but if we're about to get shut down, I want to land in water.
Just because it's a coastline doesn't mean it's water.
Well, I'm going to
could be.
assume that it's better than crashing into ships when, like, Quad is more comfortable in water.
It could be a
Okay.
planet that's only coastline.
Thank you, Chris.
Like a sandwich with only crusts.
I
Kill the.
I thought it was going to be kill Nix. I put that in hoping at least one person would get at least one shekel
thought
out of
of
this
it.
entire session. But I don't get the like satisfaction of you thinking of it.
All right. So back in 15.
Yeah, back in 15.
All right. You in just a bit.
resistant to stab damage, right?
I caught that comment, Jack. It's in the
You did.
VOD now.
Yeah.
Ah, fantastic. All right. So, as we cut away to break, we were seeing the planet up close for the first time, and everybody's eyes were metaphorically pasted to the viewports to see what was happening. And so, resolving roles in order. And where did I lose it? Okay. So we'll start with the 15. Chris, what did you roll as Vito? What skill?
Perception.
Okay. Did anybody else roll perception? I wrote all this down and then promptly lost the paper. That's why I'm asking. Zyrea rolled perception, right? Okay. So for these straight perception rolls, let me check. A 15 and a 20. Vito sees a planet that almost certainly looks like it has had some kind of civilization. There are shapes and structures that are too regular. And though a geologist might say, oh, it's actually possible for those formations to occur in that sort of patterning and have that kind of vegetation occur over it, Vito wouldn't know that. And he's pretty confident saying, yes, there are people here and they had a fairly complex, fairly widespread society. Zyrea, as Zyrea is looking out with that 20, something seems particularly familiar about some of these structures that Vito has noticed. There are these sort of not quite limestone, a little bit pale stone, sort of half domes spread and littered throughout. And you only see maybe 2, 3 as you're doing your approach vector. And they're fairly far apart, right? Hundreds of miles apart. They're in different areas. But you have an inkling. Those are stadiums. Those are definitely places for performances to occur. They're large, but they're not meant for an enormously massive crowd. No more than 1,000 people would be comfortable in the way that you imagine those stadiums to be set up. But you're purely going on familiarity more than anything, right, with performances. Let's see. So those were our flat perceptions. Did anybody else roll flat perception? All other skills. Okay. Let's see, next highest.
I think
It's next highest is Jack, and then we're gonna end at the top roll.
That's 23.
Oh, I thought you had a 16.
Yeah, that's reliable.
Okay,
mine is
sorry.
still
I just
higher,
roll bad.
actually, though.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just roll bad.
Okay. So 23, 24, and then 28. So yeah. So Jack, go ahead. You had a what kind of roll?
Theoretical science. The only thing
Wait.
I'm really reliably exactly a 23 at.
Okay. And I don't remember these things. So theoretical science. As you are scanning the sort of surface here, it's not like Vito definitely noticed signs of civilization, but he wouldn't be able to tell you whether or not this community had been capable of spaceflight at any point in the past. You can say with like 100% certainty that if this society didn't have spacefaring capability, it'd be absurd, right? Whenever you were getting this briefing, this is a spacefaring society. You don't still see any sign of current spacefaring technology, and you don't see any sign of current population. But in the light of that, it seems unusual that there would be no sign of some sort of cataclysm, etc. There is no sign of any disaster occurring to have stopped spaceflight, but it doesn't make sense that you have picked up no beacons as you traveled closer. And it doesn't make any sense that you weren't able to like communicate with people on this planet ahead of time before a primary away time was set. But that is, you still have the sense that if you knew a little bit more, if you had more information, you could figure out what is going on here, but you don't quite know. And then Andrew's up next, and you rolled with Xenobotany. The planet is in some sort of stage of succession. The plants that grow there are extremely healthy. Most planets that are at this level of technological innovation have some sort of division between the urban areas and the non-urban areas. And many planets at this kind of level of technology have some sort of like sign that they've, done harm to their ecosystem. But from a xenobotanist perspective, this planet almost looks like it would be one that you wouldn't be allowed to land on because it has a society that is spacefaring. Except for that you do see signs that appear to be of like regrowth, of like areas where things have been cleared out and then grown over. But that is possible to be just like the natural cycle, right? Of, things burn down and then they get replaced. So.
Okay.
And then finally, with our 20... What do we have?
28.
28, okay. I knew it was like higher than a 25. And you rolled...
Theoretical science.
Okay. Wow. Beaten Quad in every theoretical science roll.
Yeah, I haven't mentioned it. I've been very good about it.
Yeah, you haven't complained at all. All right. 1 second. I had something in my head and then I lost it that I wanted to make sure.
Fun of me.
Yes. It is such an unusual deviation from our normal DM player mechanic. For there to be shade being thrown. So, Kristen, Celeste, in looking at this planet, looking at the structures of buildings, and looking at the that's my dog that I left outside, and there's nobody outside to get him. I promise this isn't just vamping.
What a play to just be like, my dog, I suppose.
Yeah, exactly.
I guess. I just seamlessly exposited the 4 of you, but the 5th one I had nothing for. Let me write that while I save my dog.
Yes. He's very angry with me. So as you're looking through this area, you see not only signs that the spacefaring capability is present, but you see signs that people have very carefully shut down systems. And the way you notice this is that there are areas that are clearly power sources, right? Power generation. And this is what you notice that was missed by Quad. These power generation... I wasn't even trying until you looked at me like that. These power generation sites, when you were kind of sweeping over, you saw a few that might have still been functional. But as you get to the landing zone, they are not exactly defunct, but put offline. They are not transmitting the way they should be. And this is something that you're getting specifically from your implant, your not glasses, but the thing that's actually in your optic nerve.
Yeah, optical implant. Yeah.
Yeah, the optical implant. I can think of the words. It's implanted into your optical nerve, but not optical implant. You see little power spikes and power readings as you go through. So there is something still functioning here on this planet. There may or may not be people to operate all of that because even without doing it as an applied engineering check, you know these systems will run for a long time. But there is not enough power in the zone that you have landed in to make you concerned that you are about to interfere with a society that isn't like that is like even capable of responding. All right, there's not enough power in this sector of the planet to suggest that people are currently inhabiting the area. Seems pretty empty. All right. So you said seamless exposition, so I'm assuming the rest of you know what I meant by your instructions. Kristen, did I save that enough that you know that I was what I was intending for you to get from that roll?
Yeah, I took notes and I gathered that
Okay, you
we're
gathered
going
them.
to land where we're landing.
Yes. All right. So, unless somebody tries to interrupt her, Quad is free to make her landing.
Quad having a crisis of confidence after constantly being like out-scienced, just flies straight into the ground and kills everyone. No, yeah, I'll land where we're meant to land. I will take my direction from the captain for the landing point.
And you had said that you wanted an area of water, and there is
to have a landing point that was near enough water that if we did start to have a failure based on an attack of some kind, I could then aim the ship for the water while I ejected the other people over the line.
Okay. Will you still land as close to the water as possible, even if it puts you on the periphery of the zone that you're intended to travel, or will you just try to land dead center?
I'm going to land there unless I get an order from my commanding officer in this instance to land somewhere else. So.
Celeste is going to trust Quad to do her job.
Yeah. My job of being the professional pilot, highest ranked pilot in this exact ship. Yeah, I'll land, provided it's safe to do so, I'll land closer to the water then.
All right. So as you land closer to the water, you're not too far away from at least the initial point that you plan to lay a beacon. And it's always possible to just return to the shuttle and then instead of taking an over trip, rather than being provided with multiple overland, small vehicles, the way the original away team was provided, your shuttle has been optimized for transport, right? For getting multiple people from one place to another. So as you choose this landing zone, you come in and this beach is not a saltwater beach. It's something that looks like a very, very large lake. Like, the Great Lakes in North America. Just if you were standing at the edge, it would look like an ocean. But as you come down, you're aware of the scale. And the area next to it, from Xenobotanist's eyes, Andrew, this part looks fully reclaimed, and it looks like it has been this way for centuries. Natural with very little intervention on the part of people. And you can tell just from a glance that there's been no sort of curation, right? People are not choosing plants to put here. They're not doing any sort of vacation destination work on this area. Zyrea, one of the, grand coliseums, if you can call it that, when it's meant for less than 1,000 people, is visible in the distance. And the shuttle slowly comes to a soft halt in this sort of like grainy, rocky, lakeside mixture of sand and harder materials, unbroken rock. And the initial computer's readouts, very visible to anybody standing near the command zone, is that the air is habitable. The planet's gravity is slightly less than is normal. So people accustomed to standard gravity that is available on the Discovery ship will find themselves feeling a little bit bouncy. Good news for Vito and his eternal back pain. there are no sensors triggering for any sort of commonly listed environmental contaminant, but that does not mean there are none available. And you're you're a good enough distance away from the lake. Quad is intelligent enough and familiar enough with water movement to not have placed you in an area that would cause problems with tides.
Flick everything off. Reclaim my star sticker, which she puts onto her jumpsuit. And then turns to everyone else and says, "It seems like the planet is fine to breathe on. Nothing that the lake's going to do to the shuttle from here. Low gravity, which is fun."
It's weird. Does it strike everyone else as weird?
As they're asking that question, can I don't know if I have to use a particular spell, or if I could just do this as a skill check. Can I try to reach out psionically to see if I detect any sentient energies? I do have detect thoughts, but more limited range. And I think I have to see
detect thoughts is detect thoughts is a very limited range. I feel like almost like a regular check on here would be a little weird because there is a spell that would normally let you do that. But just wouldn't let you have very much range on it, right? Like detect thoughts would let you do that.
Right. Well, I'm not. And I'm not trying to necessarily detect active
location.
Thoughts.
You just want
to see if there's any brain waves in the air at all. But
I would say
kind of a weird check.
Within the world of the infinite, you certainly can just be like, "Hey, I'm going to stretch out a psionic thought to something and see if it contacts with something, or see if something else is transmitting its psionics." That's what the skill is for in a lot of ways.
Okay, so you're going to yell psionically.
Sure. Yeah, you could think of it that way if you were a crazy person.
It sounds like screaming into the void to me. I feel like
it's like turning on a ship beacon, but you're turning on your psionic signature, the version of you that exists in your psionics.
And so, would you roll that as a straight psionics check?
Yeah, the same as how you use spirituals to know things about gods.
I thought it might be like that, but I wasn't.
It's alright, I didn't brief Charlie on how the power skills work because I forget they exist because nobody overrolls them because we don't have an empowered in the main game.
27.
Targeted.
Oh, look! If it isn't the consequences of my own actions.
This is the thing I'm the best at. That's my best skill.
That is beautiful. That was a good question. That was a good question to ask. So with your 27, there are presences around here. You have a sense of at least one, but not very many, sentient thinking people. You can't triangulate them, and if there is a reply, it doesn't come immediately. There is no immediate reaction to your psionic request. What there is, however, is a soft ping from your slab telling you that your audio processing program that you had set up and got running has completed. And so you do have a little bit of additional information with which to begin your quest. I think it's the first line that I sent you. I know I didn't tell you any details about it, but you do have, because Selmac took his time to try to clean up this audio, and Celeste sort of half commanded as a commander to do those things.
I'll take this, newly edited mixed output and throw it up onto the speakers.
And so, for the first time, this audio file that had played for Celeste in that private briefing that we had not heard before begins to play. And whereas when it played for Celeste the first time, she's going to recognize this time a lot of the peripheral crackling and sounds of reverberation have been nixed away from it. And instead you hear very clearly a familiar voice. Officer Zost is a senior ship officer, fairly well beloved by the crew. He often comes to Vito's little dinners, and where Vito will like make a dinner, etc. He brings these desserts. He brings these like little thematic iced cookies for like whatever department is around. Which is why the medical staff was so, bummed to hear that he was on this missing away team. He has made little cookies once with like Vito's face on them, with the little armadillo face. And it's like weird. He does like all kinds of, he'll do like little ship's insignias. But you've never heard him sound like this. Hey, IDS Variance, being hunted. Leave. Not meant to be here. And there are two things that you've gotten from this. One, it's clearer. But two, you are familiar with large rooms enough and small rooms and like the way that audio plays off of different areas. And you're fairly confident that this was either produced underground or an enclosed space. It was not made in trees or anything else, right? It doesn't have that sense of the water causing it to echo. It doesn't have the sense of the trees absorbing the sound. This is in an enclosed space with a little bit of echo that you
Right,
were not
there's
able to remove.
There's some reverb that's just ever present. I will,
Yep.
as the audio ends, say, Commanding Officer, I've also detected at least the presence of one sentient being in the vicinity. I couldn't say who or how far, simply that they're there.
Celeste takes a deep breath. Okay. So, at least one person, hopefully from our crew, is still alive, still out there, still moving. So you played that over the intercom? Did everyone hear that, or was that just between? Okay.
No, I played that over the intercom, not thinking that it would be like everybody's on this mission, so I'm playing it to everybody. He'll also follow up. He'll say, "I believe that this particular recording was in an enclosed space, perhaps underground or a very thick-walled building."
I don't know if I should be concerned or not. I will share this with you, and I want you to know that you've done nothing wrong because I was not clear in my instructions. And honestly, I'm glad that you did this like this. I've been given strict instructions not to pay any heed to what Officer Zost might be saying due to it being unknown whether or not he has become hysterical, and if that is due to something inherent in his own nature or due to something in the planet. I am glad that we are all working from a place of common knowledge. I think that sharing this information is probably better for the crew, but it's important to keep in mind that whatever we meet, it might not be Officer Zost in the way that we know him.
I will be prepared then, as like some electricity sparks across a fingertip.
Is this happening in the room that Quad is in?
Y'all don't really have that much
We're
difference.
all
in the
here,
room?
I think.
Zyrea only caught the thing that said you said that there was one person nearby, and you just watch as like Zyrea has stood up from her seat, has unbuckled herself, and is just slowly like cracking the knuckles, rolling the neck, just like fully like warming up her body in case she needs to immediately go punching something.
Quad looks at Celeste and says, in case he is not what he was before?
I believe that is why I am. Oh, well, that may be one of the reasons I have been requested. I can restrain him for long enough for the rest of you to physically restrain him, if need be.
Zyrea can just do that. As Quad is speaking, she reaches down and she picks up off the top of her bag a long, it's maybe, well, she's 5.5 foot, so it's maybe 6 foot long. And it's like a cylindrical tube that has a triangle with an open mouth aperture on the end of it. And she drags her thumb across what Celeste and Zyrea definitely know is like a thumbprint scanner. And the end of it flares into just a standard spear shape. And she says, well, sure. Are we meant to not kill the thing that might have been someone that we knew, or save the thing that might be something that we... What if it's just him and he's being hunted?
I must.
Like we're not here just to off the people. We're here to take. Like
It's my
we're going to
understanding
talk
this
to
is-
them first.
this is
We
some
can
sort of
restrain him,
rescue
sure.
mission. I perhaps might be able to break the hysteria, though it depends on the severity of the situation and its exact nature.
Celeste is eyeing the spear that Quad has brought out, and even though she is saying, well, maybe like is the point to kill or not, and see goes, I truly do want to remind everyone here that this is in fact a rescue mission. That is what is at the top of my heading.
That's what
But
I
we
was
don't know
asking.
what's going to happen.
Zyrea has a question.
I
She
never
points to
thought that
direct
was
your
in
attention
doubt.
away from Quad. I also didn't, but you just said a thing about him maybe not being himself. He could be some hideous, evil squid monster. Zyrea has a question, Captain.
Zyrea, you can just start talking if you need to.
Okay. If needed to, if Officer Zosk is in fact incoherent, and can I, if needed, could I possibly, if whatever, I completely just forgot what your character's name is, Andrew. I'm so sorry.
Selmac.
Selmac. If Selmac's methods aren't working, do I have permission to possibly punch him in the face if needed to maybe help relieve the hysteria, and or just knock him unconscious so we can safely return to the variance?
As all of this conversation is happening, and there are at least three different people shooting words at Celeste, she slides the red lens back over her glasses and starts to sort of shrink, trying to get behind Vito a little bit, even though he is tiny.
You should just
just
Not
to make
kill,
sure everyone.
just to make unconscious, not to kill, just to make
I'm gonna say,
unconscious.
I think everyone's on the same page. We're just all saying different stuff about the same thing. We're gonna find the people. We'll try to rescue them if we can. If they're hysterical, we'll try to restrain them and talk to them then. If that doesn't work, Bean Sprout will knock them out, knock them cold. That's fine. Killing, I think everyone agrees, last option. I mean, Zalta's a good guy. Makes cookies. Good cookies. He's a good guy.
The spear is for whatever might have done this to him.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I know. I don't think he's just going to go stabbing people if they don't
It's
deserve
not
it anyway.
It's not a stabbing spear. Anyway.
Okay, I'm going to loop back to that one for a second.
Selmac has started to walk over towards the boarding ramp. Okay, I'm done with this conversation a little bit.
And when when Celeste sees Selmac is making their way to the off ramp, Celeste is going to use that as her out to dodge out with him.
I almost want to make you make a deception check for the spear is not for stabbing.
Certainly some of these 5 people have
seen
seen that it shoots a laser. It's certainly someone who has seen that its primary purpose is to shoot a laser beam. Like,
Laser spear. Oh,
This is not for stabbing. Zyrea has just like strapped this 5-foot-long greatsword to her back.
uh,
alright. So
Quad
those two are the
looks-
first off. Who's following?
Quad kind of looks at Vito and Zyrea, her preferred away team, as it turns out, and says, "They sent Celeste as the scientist in the lead. We are here," and she points at herself and Zyrea, "for something more dangerous than this. Anyone can pilot this thing. It's basically just computers most of the way." But she shrugs and offers to help Vito up out of his too big chair.
We'll just listen to that and then we'll just walk away. We'll not even acknowledge, like, forgets that Vito is so small and has short legs and can't follow in her like 3-foot wide stride.
Vito, with kind of more like in the mission version of himself, where he's more alert and stuff. Kind of like in his chair, he always has like a bit of a hunch. Straightens up. You do hear like a crack crack, almost like an extender pole as he like kind of moves around, and then takes off the belt and kind of just like hops out. And with what probably, since preferred away team, with what Quad can recognize as basically like Vito's, all right, this is my like mission posture, like I'm being serious. Probably gonna have like back issues when I get back, but it's fine. I can ignore it for now. We're good.
Quad chuckles a bit and just quickly goes around making sure all of the systems are off, since you all walked out about 30 seconds after a thing played, so the thing is still on. But before she leaves, the last thing she does is, "I'd like to check Vito's seat and shift the
belt.
The belt down to where Vito will actually sit, because I can't fix whatever Selmac has going on. That's just like that's a different problem. But I can move the harness on a seat. Look over, it's like a spider web."
Sorry.
I will say, before Vito leaves completely, he will stop for a second and actually kind of move over to probably like a little shelf where he had put it. He will open up the package that he was given.
Excellent. And so as you open up that package, like almost immediately, you smell like something very strong, you would say immediately floral, but maybe that's like influenced a bit by the hatch being open and all of the verdant outside, because like the more you open it up, the more you move around the packaging, it's actually like it's very herbal, whatever is in there. There is some kind of tonic that has been provided, tonic or alcohol. It's not 100% clear. If you remove the cap, you can probably make that decision. It's a pale, vibrant, like almost fluorescent, yellowish color.
Yeah, Vito definitely does like the thing of like undoes the cap and then doesn't just smell, does like the like, like a waft.
All right, and so we have a couple ways this will run out, but I have determined that everybody is going to use their skill checks at least once. So go ahead and make a sommelier check. Which is the first thing I have ever done. This one is an int version, because you're just trying to figure out what is going on here.
Okay.
Forgot you had sommelier.
Yeah, I was like, I'm gonna do it, whatever it takes.
Natural
and I had,
one. Don't 11,
that's what I
but
get.
natural one.
That's what I fucking get for.
Plus 10 to this skill?
Yeah.
12 if it's charisma.
I have a plus
Yes.
10 to mine.
3 ranks.
It was
Don't
rank,
insult.
remember?
Don't insult Vito. I have 4.
Yeah, you bought one.
I thought we only were given 2 extra ranks.
I told him
You guys
I told him he
spent
could have
60?
several ranks.
No,
I
and then he
I
just
spent
bought.
points.
Yeah, but also Charlie gave different people different amounts.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah,
Just
Vito got a whole shit ton because he's older than
curious.
shit. So he would have had plenty of time to have learned his sommelier without like slowing down his other skill progressions because he was, smelling wine all the time.
He is older than shit. Yes.
Yeah. By the way, like in the Infinite, this is actually a real skill. In the real world, this is hot garbage. And a pseudoscience. Just putting it out there. But
Don't
so
speak for the entirety of the Imris saga stream.
okay, let me rephrase that. On the variants, specifically whatever Vito's species is that I cannot remember the name of the species, they live long enough to actually crack the science and turn it into something that is realistic. With that natural one bumped up to an 11, you are confident it wouldn't hurt you. But that comes more from like your understanding of your ship's mates, right? That they were providing you with a gift, and that they were so earnest about giving you a gift on your way out instead of just waiting until you returned, right? You suspect that from baseline understanding, baseline working with people, that they thought it might help you.
Yeah.
That's all you get from this roll.
Great. He corks it,
maybe
puts it in a shirt.
Yeah, maybe you'll have time to look at it again later. All right. Time check.
25
Okay.
minutes, pretty much. Well, 20 minutes because we got to wrap up because Andrew is streaming.
Yeah.
As
so
Quad walks off,
y'all can carry on.
She's starting to audit the mission, as is her custom. Like she audits the leadership of every mission she ever goes on. That she's not the leader, knowing that it goes nowhere, so she just CCs it to the person that she knows doesn't read it, but also blind CCs it to the commander Shemdir, who she got linked that manual just to irritate that person.
Lysira is just gonna get like 12
Every so
different
often,
things,
just
like
gets a
batch.
mission report of someone that was fine, but it said bad.
It's also like super delayed, right? Like
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
never
that's
on
the thing.
time. Also,
And
it's
it's
to
got,
an
like, a bunch
address
of them
that
at
maybe
once.
doesn't exist anymore. Yeah, I'll walk out to the others after I finish powering off everything.
Is
I'll look
anybody
at
doing
Celeste.
anything in particular as they exit the ship, or are you just exiting in the order that you already described?
I think
think
that,
that Zyrea is gonna look for threats because that's what she's as the primary protector or enforcer type person on this crew. She is going to be scanning for threats.
The red shirt.
We've established that she wears purple and gold.
Once Celeste is
Her
like,
armor has purple and gold accents. It's not fully purple and gold. It is the standard color of gray.
I will have to get that art redone then. Single tier. Once Celeste has like gotten up with Selmac and is like away from the general bombardment of questions from Zyrea and evil mean looks from Quad, she I don't want to say activate. She pulls the red lens, like she has that. She slides it back up off so she can get the inputs again, and sort of. I don't quite get also how the spell or the power abilities work, but sort of like Selmac did his scream into the void check. She's specifically like trying to like gauge the physical environment around her. Genomancy question mark.
Yeah, no, you can use your implant for that, and your information will be a little bit like perception, but modified to suit the fact that your optical implant works for physical properties. And when you say physical properties, generally, I've been assuming this, but I should have asked because that's my job, but I didn't. were you thinking simple like compositions, depths, like thicknesses, those kinds of things, or was there something else that
The inspiration that I was taking from, and I think that just for the sake of the balance game, nerf this down to whatever you like need it to be appropriate, was that she has sort of an inherent understanding of, like, you know, the meme of the woman with all the equations floating around her? That's what she is all the time.
Okay, so she gets the information that is most relevant to that situation. So if she saw a wall all of metal, she wouldn't be calculating its velocity, she would be determining what kind of metal it is, that kind of thing.
She doesn't necessarily get to decide what the most important piece of the information, or she has to like make the conscious effort to decide.
Okay.
She getting like everything in though and has to sort through it.
Okay, got it. So her check represents her ability to successfully sort through and catch a piece of information that she wants.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, it's cool. So make a genomancy check, and if you want, if you describe something or a direction that you are looking at based on your previous information, or I can describe what we are seeing, that would influence the kind of information that you get.
Selmac, did you indicate what direction you're getting the ping from?
I explained that I was not able to get that information. I just know that there's something in the area. I believe that's what Charlie had said.
Okay.
Yeah.
General direction away from the water.
Yeah, like
Still make a
you know that
perception
much.
check as well.
Yes.
Since I said I was scanning. Okay.
Yep. And then if anybody else wants to make an additional check as you step off.
Vito will just do a perception check if he can. Just cat this around.
Natural one.
Nice.
This is like a really weird ask. Because we saw those arenas, right? Is there one close by?
Yeah, Zyrea is also kind of, she's more focused, she's supposed to be scanning, but she's also just keeps looking towards that direction. Is like, do they wrestle here? Do they have a pro wrestling? Like, she's just thinking more about that stuff instead of actually focusing on her job.
And yes, there is the one that Zyrea is looking toward. There is that one, like, in the distance. It's traversable by foot.
This might have to be a lore skill or something like that instead of this, but could I make like a bureaucracy check as like a almost like sociology thing? Or would that be, I don't know, maybe Jack as well, would that be way something else?
Either understanding or lore, but that's generally like what the lore skills are for.
That's fine. In that case,
yeah, that does seem a very lore thing. If you were trying, so what are you trying to figure out about that?
Trying to suss out what its purpose might be. Like if I could tell, like, oh, there are these elements about it that suggest it was used for this reason.
I think that could also, in the right context, be an applied engineering check, which I know doesn't help you. But just
that's fine. I was just curious. I was like, maybe.
Yeah. Lore applied engineering. Okay, and then so Vito made a perception check, and it's a pretty good one. So Vito, is there anything specific? I know that Zyrea was looking for threats. What is Vito looking for?
He's looking for anything that could. Basically, he's scanning for, without getting right up to and investigating like the ground for footprints, but just any sense that there has been something around here, people, big things moving, is anything of that nature.
Okay. Are you doing that right next to the ship, or have you moved a little bit away from the shore to begin that?
A little bit away.
Okay. So if you're, as you've stepped away, the shore is very smooth, even though it's rocky. You would have to be an absolute expert to pick up anything from that kind of terrain as like the
Mhm.
waves lap at the edge. But as you move further out, you can see that the grasses of this area flow pretty normally. There don't seem to be any paths. As you look at the tree line, you don't detect any immediately obvious traces of like large creatures passing through. You see some spots where like, oh, maybe something has been there. But with 22, it's like maybe it's a person, maybe it's an animal, right? There's no actual guarantee, and you know this too because of just the way that this mission went. You know that you aren't landing unless it's complete accident and completely random. You aren't landing where the previous away team did, right?
Yep.
Because their their transmission started getting garbled from very early on. So it'd be a complete like needle in a haystack to find footsteps right here. But you do have at least the confidence that probably nothing big is lurking on this beach, waiting to eat your ship as soon as you're gone.
That's good.
All right. Have I missed anybody's roles to resolve? Okay.
A dirty 20.
Okay.
On my
Dirty
check.
20. All right. Let me see. All right. So base 7, dirty 20, and you rolled just perception again, or did you
It
roll?
was like
Oh no, you did. We had that whole question and I lost it. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So as you scan through the area, looking for anything that kind of sticks out, looks useful to you, your eyes are just drawn to what the other two have already noticed and kind of been thinking about. Your eyes are drawn to that large sort of dome. And then something like kind of just draws your attention further. You're like, that little signature of stone, of the type of stone that that's made out of, the composition, specifically the hardness on the Rohr scale, like that's used to measure diamonds, etc. You see flecks of that elsewhere, and you can see a closer area where something like that stone might be, but it doesn't look like itself a dome, right? Like you just see a pattern that indicates almost like a linear or curved area. And it's, you could get there with a half hour's walk, as opposed to the major dome, which would be, a bigger hike.
Celeste turns to the group and will expectantly wait for other people to share any pertinent information that they think is valuable. And then we'll give her suggestions if other people are wishy-washy.
I don't think there's anything too big around here that's gonna sneak up and bite us in the ass.
Quad chuckled, but it's kind of just waiting to see what happens since she did most of her stuff inside and only just came back out.
Zyrea will pull her sword and have her sword out.
Okay. So I
Put my
think there
spear back.
is
Sorry. Go ahead.
an obvious target for us to start approaching, and that is the large dome. However, I think that maybe we could approach this other. Was it a structure that you were talking about, Charlie?
You know that there is some kind of structure that has been built there. You can't distinguish exactly what that structure is, but you do see little pips of that like same kind of stone. Even though you can't suss out the stone itself, you know that that stone has been used elsewhere, and that it wouldn't take you off your path to get to this area.
As we head that way, I think that there is a closer structure that might be worth investigating in determining what exactly the status of this planet is. And I know that's not directly our job, but it is the job of the team that we were here to rescue. So hopefully this will allow us to retrace their footsteps.
All Right then, sounds reasonable.
Good
I
with me.
did bring the beacons out of the ship, since that is our job, and then I will ask Zyrea to carry them.
Swords out.
I put my spear away because everyone seemed very intimidated by it. Literally just a spear.
And
Zyrea
Celeste
just
will-
shrugs.
Draining way.
Both Celeste and Quad know that that original map that they looked at, that even though you couldn't see these stone structures from the maps that they were working with originally because they were beneath the cloud cover, and the variance conducted its scans from very far away, as to avoid getting any sort of additional attention, since it's against policy for non-spacefaring societies to be contacted. This stadium would probably, if it is a stadium, would probably appear to be pretty useful for that, right? It would be a good place to lay a beacon. So regardless, that is going to help you with your journey. So as y'all set out, do you do any additional preparations? Is there anything else that you're concerned about? Because we can make about 10 minutes worth of journey, or we could pause here, right? Just depends on what works best for you.
Very just following the
Yeah,
lead
I
of
think-
Celeste.
I don't think I have anything else at the
Okay.
moment.
Walking behind Zyrea, which is their normal marching order.
All right. So as you begin this quiet march, it turns out to be very good for Vito in particular, but everybody, that the gravity is lighter than normal. The toughest part of the initial walk is getting through that rocky shore. It's got enough rocks and enough sand mixed in a way that makes it kind of feel like you're dragging at your feet. But as you step onto the more loamy zone, and then you finally step into the area where the trees are, as Selmac noted from the beginning, this forest is not exceptionally old growth, which means that there is a lot of undergrowth. The larger trees have not crowded out the smaller plants within. And so it's time consuming to make your way through it. And though you have, weapons, or melee weapons, etc., that might make this journey a little easier, it's generally contraindicated to leave such a method of your, such a visible record of your passage, right? If as you're stepping into this undergrowth zone, go ahead and is anybody a xenobotanist except for Selmac? Is Selmac the only one?
I'm pretty sure it's just me.
Okay. I think that, and then who has specialty in because I'm trying to think of the equivalent right here to a survival check of crossing this area, and I feel like it'd be helpful for figuring out an area where the growth might be less, but also kinematics or deafness might be useful for figuring out a path that you can help the others to.
I've
So-
got 2 ranks in kinematics.
I also have kinematics, but xenobotany is what you're meant to use to
Yeah.
traverse difficult floral terrain.
Okay. And so once more, I'm gonna have 2 players make a roll. I want Selmac and Zyrea making a roll for their respective good skills.
I have
To
kinematics
see how
for
long-
terrain.
Okay.
That's fine. I don't mind.
I was thinking because of you said that Zyrea is in front of you, right?
I'm probably
Yeah.
leading and trying to,
Yeah.
because I'm so big, probably trying to help the path. Not even necessarily cutting down things, but just making a path so everyone else, because everyone else is smaller than her, be able to walk through with ease.
Okay, solid roll.
21. Oh, hey.
Mutual 21s. And so yeah, y'all are navigating pretty well. Did you want to try to throw advantage on that as you help help her like notice things to avoid trip hazards, etc. All right,
That's to you, Jack.
I'm about to. I'll
So-
close it off.
Sorry,
Andrew.
thought you were talking to Andrew.
Yeah, go ahead. No, for you.
I
If
didn't
you
hear
for the
what you said.
kinematics. If you want to give advantage to that kinematics roll, so
Nah,
since you are right
I'm
behind.
like not very good at chopping things, and I don't think that Quad would think that Zyrea needs help to just walk fine.
Okay.
What?
So, you do manage to make this trip a little easier. Specifically, what happens for that xenobotany check is that as y'all are stepping into an area, Selmac holds up a finger, and you've noticed a plant that is most likely poisonous. You've never seen that plant before, but plants that have those kind of indicators are generally poisonous. And you notice that with enough time to warn the group. Andrew has to go, so I'm just gonna roll through this and get us to a brief
Do you
stopping
guys
point.
can keep going for a little bit too, if that works out better? Not big
Are
deal.
you streaming it?
Yeah, you're
That's-
streaming
that's
it, buddy.
correct. This is why
Yeah.
I forgot about that, and this is why.
Yeah.
It's not a big deal.
I didn't realize you a bit earlier. I would have done it.
This is a good point to pause.
Yeah.
Um,
Particularly because it seems like we will
I
be
can
playing
come
this
back
again
in
next
15
week.
minutes and turn it off. Like I don't have to go forever, but I do have to do
Yeah.
something, and it will take like not an insignificant amount of time.
So,
Yeah. And so, as you notice that poisonous plant, immediately is like just hacks it away before anybody can walk into it or become
Poison.
and like without a single fragment of it landing on anybody in the party. And so that's where we pause as y'all are kind of like trekking through the area and realize that you've kind of stepped into a zone where there are a lot of poisonous plants to avoid, but have not had any problems with them.
Thank you for
Bode well
joining
for next
us.
time.
Thank you for joining us for the Infinite this week. We will be back. Andrew has informed us that he's available next week as well. So we're going to continue this right where we
90%
left
sure.
off, which is nice. 90% sure. We'll in the 10% other situation, we will do what we had planned, which is jump back to the main game. Thank you all for watching. Subscribe, follow, all of the things
Do the
that
things.
people are meant to
I'm gonna
do.
start.
Hit
I think
notification
I'm
bell.
gonna start to have some clips, and I'm gonna start posting them. Maybe on TikTok, maybe just on my Instagram. I'm not sure yet.
If somebody wants to clip specifically the hallway with Vito,
Please,
try and get someone to animate that for us.
please,
That'd be
someone
great.
clip it.
But we have to leave so that Andrew can head off and turn the stream off, etc. So thank you very much.
Right.
Bye.
This was a lot of fun.
Thank you,
Bye-bye,
Charlie.
everyone.
It was good. Bye.
Bye.